Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular board meeting of the Vallecitos Water District Board of Directors, Wednesday, March 16th at 5 p.m. Director Martin, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Martin. Diane, can we have a roll call, please?
Director Oliver?
Here.
Director Evans?
Here.
Director Hernandez?
Here.
Director Martin?
Here.
Director Pinelli?
Here. And before we entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda, I have some more legal language to read to you, so bear with me. I would like to add a closed session item to tonight's agenda in accordance to Government Code 54954.2 B2. The matter involves ongoing labor negotiations with the Employees Association pursuant to Government Code 54957.6. The item arose subsequent to the posting of the agenda, and there is a need for immediate action. I will need a 4/5 vote to add the following item to the closed session. Conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, Negotiator General Manager Lamb, Employee Organization, Vallecitos Water District Employees Association. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second.
And third and fourth.
Get a roll call?
Sure, on who was first on the agenda?
Again, I'll be second. Let the old guy have it.
Okay, Director Oliver?
Yes.
Director Evans?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Director Martin?
Yes.
Director Pinelli?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Now I need another motion to approve the modified agenda for tonight.
So moved.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Director Evans seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, guys. Okay, moving on to oral communications. Don't see any. Diane, do we have any? That you're, okay. So we'll go ahead and, if there was anybody that would like to speak, this would be your time, but I don't see any out there, so we'll move on to the consent calendar, and all matters listed under the
Oh,
We have
consent.
the presentations first.
Oh, you want to do, okay.
Yeah, we'll do presentations first.
Sure. Then I'll turn it over to you, Director.
Yes, the board last week, Director Evans, I believe, brought it up. I wasn't at the board meeting to have the general manager of the Water Authority come speak to you. There's quite a few topics going on, so we thought we would just get the person best in the know from the Water Authority. So with that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Maureen Stapleton. She's the general manager of the San Diego County Water Authority. She's got several items she'll talk to you, and then hopefully they come up on the screen.
So I hear.
Hey.
Okay. So first of all, good afternoon. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. I've got 3 areas I'm going to talk about, and I hope they meet your needs. And if you have any additional questions, I'm happy to talk to you about each and everything that's going on. And as you know, in water, not only in our region, but in California, a lot is going on in water. So we have lots to go through. So let's start first with the MWD litigation update. I wanted to go real quick and just let you know where we're at and where we're heading. This has been a long road, and we expect it'll be a little bit longer. But I wanted to let you know kind of what has happened and where we're at. Remember what is the litigation about? And that is really, it says that California law and common law and the statutes of California really require public agencies to charge no more than the cost of service. You are obligated as a retail agency to do your cost of service studies and make sure that you do that. We as wholesalers, whether it be MWD or the Water Authority, we're required to do the same thing. And so that's one of the essential elements of the lawsuit. Also, you can't charge your customers disproportionate to the use of the facility or the service and the benefit that is derived by that service. So our first lawsuit was filed against MET in 2010 after a number of years of our MET delegates trying very hard to convince the board, their fellow board members, made changes so that the Met rates would align with cost of service. They were unsuccessful, and if you think about it, the reason they're unsuccessful is if they're charging too much to the water authority, they must be undercharging others. And they were undercharging everyone else because we're the only agency that uses Met's pipes but have our own water. And that's why we're a unique agency at Metropolitan. So that meant if I saved $1, you may have to pay the $1. And it was, you know, as the general manager told me in one of our conversations is, it's unrealistic to expect that a board member would vote, which would vote on a matter which was harmful to their own agency. So off to court we go. And we started in 2010, filed in June of 2010, and we filed on the 2011 and 2012 the rates that were set. They set 2 years at a time. And then in 2013, 2012, we had a file on the 13-14, and then we filed on the 15-16, but it's all identical. And they're just taking these one at a time. So let's talk about how did this happen and how come it's happening now. Before 2003, before the Imperial Valley deal, everybody bought water and transportation from Metropolitan. There was no separation of the two. And it wasn't until the Imperial Valley deal was done in 2003 that they had to separate out what are their actual supply costs and what are their system or their aqueduct, their system costs. And so that was the first time in their entire history that they did that. So now they have a variety of both supply and system costs. Remember, system is the orange or it looks orange, the orange. And they have 4 different, what they call rates. They have a water supply rate, a system access rate, a power rate, and a water stewardship rate. But as you can see, there are costs related to supply that are in the transportation or the system access rate and the power rate, but they're actually supply costs. And the reason for that is Metropolitan put the state water project costs, much of the state water project costs, on transportation, when in actuality it's a supply to Metropolitan at their expense. So if you bought water from Metropolitan, it didn't matter where those costs were because you paid them all anyways. What did it matter? But if you're just buying transportation, look how much of the blue is in the transportation rate. And that's where we couldn't continue to pay water supply costs in our transportation rate just for our Imperial Valley water. What it meant was that the San Diego County ratepayers were subsidizing other water agency supplies in LA, Ventura, Orange County, and Riverside. We were subsidizing those costs. So on November 18th of 2015, Judge Carnow of San Francisco, a Superior Court in complex cases, ruled that Met did violate rates. Proposition 26, think of that as our Proposition 218. You deal with 218, we deal with 26. Violated the wheeling statutes, violated the government code section regarding cost of service, and it violated common law rules. It was a sweep of the violations. The judge basically said, you're right. So as a result of that, he awarded $235 million in damages and prejudgment interest, and he also determined the judgment will accrue 7% simple interest as we go through appeal, and Met has filed the appeal. In addition, they awarded us $320,000 in court costs, and on Friday, we go back up to San Francisco, and we argued for $11.5 million in attorney fees to be reimbursed by Metropolitan as well. And if upheld and enforced, the decision will prevent Met from overcharging during the entire water transfer agreement. And for this region alone, it means $2 billion. We will prevent $2 billion of our ratepayers' money going up to LA and subsidizing other agencies' water supplies. So, now comes the money part. And very early on, people said, well, what are you gonna do with the money? And we said, we're gonna return it. So any legal fees that we have that have not been reimbursed, and we are asking for full reimbursement, but if we do have some legal fees, we will deduct it from the 235 or whatever the number is by the time we're done. And all the remaining money will go back to the member agencies on a pro rata basis based on what water you bought during those periods of time. What does that mean for Vallecitos? Approximately $8 million. And if we are successful, this is only for 2 years, $4 million a year. And if we are successful and they have to repay 6 years, you know you're sitting somewhere about the $20 million mark. And I am sure Vallecitos can use $20 million for your own projects. And that check would be in the mail. And we've already made that decision. And if and when we get that money, it's coming back to you because your ratepayers are the ones who are paying for this. So one of the other elements is that Metropolitan also miscalculated our water rights. You've heard them referred to often as preferential rights to water, which is a percentage of the water available at Met. And way back in 1990, we used twice the amount of water we had water rights to. So then when the drought came, we got the 31% cut, and we did not have rights to demand more water. So what the court ruled is that Met violated its own formula in calculating our water rights during this time. And they granted us additional percentage of water rights, which is about equivalent to the Carlsbad desal plant output. So if you think about it, not only did the court rule that we were overcharged, but the court said basically you have water rights at Met greater than what is calculated. And if we had to do another desal plant, that's worth about $1 billion worth of capital investment worth of water. About 50,000 acre-feet of water is what additional water that we now have rights to. So on November 14th, there was an entry of a writ of mandate. It says Met cannot set illegal rates. They must follow the principles of cost of service. They can't charge transportation rates for costs that Met doesn't, that are not Met conveyance system related. This is where Met argued that the state water project was actually their transportation project. And as you know, it isn't. It's basically the state's transportation project. Met neither owns nor operates a state water project. And so the judge said, you can't charge that as if it's your own transportation. You can only charge transportation for your system. And then they also said those local resource projects where they subsidize on an acre-foot basis these resource projects that are done by other Met member agencies, you can't charge that on transportation unless you can show how those projects benefit the transportation system. So they have to go back and look at they have to look at that as well. And then Judge Carnow he retained continuing jurisdiction, which we think is very helpful because it's a very complex case. It's very, very complex. And he is quite the studious, no-nonsense, thoughtful judge. So we're pleased with that. As I told you, Met immediately filed for appeal with the appellate court. We have the briefing schedule. We go through the briefing schedule in 2016, oral arguments in early 17, decision we hope in the summer or fall of 17. There is a potential that the losing party could petition to the state Supreme Court, and then the other two cases that are identical, the one for 1314 and 1415, 1415 those are just being held right now until the decision comes. We are open and waiting to see what happens, but Met has been very clear that they want to continue through the legal process as opposed to anything else. So that's their decision, they have rights to that decision, and so therefore, we will pursue. But we're fighting hard for your money and your ratepayers' money. So let's jump to water supply. So, how many of you were in San Diego in 1991? All of you, yeah. Memorable, wasn't it? When you get a 31% cut in your water supply and you're 95% dependent on a single supplier, it hurts a lot. And actually, we have been given a notice of a 50% cut when the Miracle March rains occurred. And we would have been in a 50% cut instead of the 31%. But what people don't know, they think that when Miracle March happened, all the cuts went away. And in actuality, they stayed an additional 14 months. We lost 52,000 jobs in our region. We lost businesses, and let me tell you, business expansion was near zero because we could not guarantee a water supply. It impacted our economy and certainly our quality of life. You remember these ads, or not the ads, the articles. And the San Diego region as a whole came together and basically came to the Water Authority and said, it is your job to ensure water reliability, and you failed us. You better not fail us again. And this never again, no more water shortages, became the mantra at the Water Authority, and we got our act together. And what we did is we developed a strategy of water reliability through diversification, recognizing that resource strategies have to be unique and customized to that community and the local conditions. I would love to have the aquifers and groundwater of Orange County or Inland Empire. We don't. We have beaches and canyons and beautiful weather. You know, I'd love to have some of the opportunity for local runoff. That's huge, but we just don't have that. So we need to accept our characteristics of our region and figure out what to do about it. We knew that no single resource was the answer. There is no silver bullet. It is a kind of a multi-shot approach. You need all the tools in the toolbox in order to accomplish it. So we started first with conservation, low-hanging fruit. And I'm going to show you some conservation numbers in a minute. And then we knew we had to diversify our supplies. First, imported. We had to go out, find additional sources of imported supplies, and then start boosting our local supplies. And then coming with the supplies is the infrastructure, and you know lots about our infrastructure, I'm sure. So let's look at how have we done in conservation. This is gallons per person per day, and in 1990 it was 235 gallons per person today, per person per day. In 2015 we're at 143. Nearly 40% reduction. So we have done, as a region, a remarkable job. And it's really the member agencies, the retail agencies, where the effort has been made and where you, the rubber hits the road, you've convinced your community to be more water efficient. And we're way below the state mandate of 20% by 2020. And like I said, then we went off and we diversified our imported supplies by two ways. One is we lined some earthen canals in the desert, the All-American and the Coachella. And that is, we're going to get about 80,000 acre-feet of water each year for 110 years. That's kind of golden because it's a capital project that conserves. And I always say, wait for my successor to figure out what to do after 110 years. You know, I can't finish everything in perpetuity. And then we're going to get about 200,000 acre-feet of water from water efficiency on farm and in system in the Imperial Irrigation District. That's the pump-back systems and laser leveling and micro sprinklers and you name it, they're doing it out in the valley. ramping up now. We get about 100,000 acre feet from those efficiencies, and it moves to 200,000 acre feet by 2021. High priority, because as you know, the priority of Imperial's water is higher even than Met's water or Coachella's water, so we feel good about that. And it'll represent about a third of our total water supply for the region. And then you know about the Carlsbad plan because, because you are not only a benefactor through the Water Authority, you're a benefactor directly. And we're so pleased to have you as a partner on that desal plant. And I think it's going to pay dividends to you and your community for many, many years to come. It was done on budget and ahead of time, so we're very pleased about that. And then the next increment is probably potable water, reuse water. We've got 2 projects that are running now. You know about City of San Diego's Pure Water. They hope to generate just under 100,000 acre feet by 2035. And then Padre Dam, which actually is running almost ahead of the cities, they're going to generate 3,000 acre feet a year. They're really moving quickly, and they hope to expand that by about 12,000 acre feet a year in the years to come. And then there's 11 other water agencies that are looking at either recycling or reuse, and that's going to generate another 100,000 acre feet by 2035. So we have a lot of local supply development going on, and we're just thrilled with it. The more we can develop our own supplies and get them within our control, the more water reliability we'll have for the future. So remember where we were, 95% dependent on a single supplier. This is where we were last year. We made tremendous progress with particularly the Imperial Valley blue and the lining of the canals, that's the red. So we've really cut down from 95% dependent to just over half. By 2020, and I hate to say it, but it's only like 3.5 years from now, it just kills me. It really makes a difference where you can see is that we're down to about 25%, about a quarter of our water from Met. We have a fairly large chunk from the Imperial Valley, about a third of that coming from Imperial Valley, and then the canal lining. And the orange slice is the seawater desalination. That's the new one. But hang on to your hat because we're not done. We add the purple slice, which is the potable reuse, and you can see that the recycled water is increased as well. So we're quite pleased. And that pie chart just screams to me water reliability for our region. That's our job. We take it seriously, and that's how we're going to achieve it. So, as I say, you've heard me say, I'm sure, that we don't have, in San Diego County, we do not have a hydrologic drought. We have a regulatory drought. And that drought is because we have 99% of all the water we need. And we have been working for decades to ensure that when the next drought came, we were able to respond to our community. Little did we know that the state of California would come and, quote, help us. And you know sometimes their help is always frightening, and in this case it certainly was. We're one of the few agencies in California that actually was putting water into storage during this drought because we had the water and we had just finished San Vicente Dam, and we put a big chunk of water in there. I would have rather have given it to our member agencies and ultimately to our end users because they really needed it. But the state was in the mood of one size fits all, and also in the mood of everybody needs to show some pain. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, and that's the regs. And as you know, on April 1st of 2015, the governor came out with the 25% order. Everybody's going to take a 25% cut, kicked the ball to the State Water Board and said you have 30 days to come up with some regulations. Go. And they came up with regulations, but they have never dealt with a drought before. This wasn't Department of Water Resources. This is the State Water Board. And unfortunately, where they focused was solely on demand. And so as a result, what they determined was, we're just gonna cut everyone back and we're gonna do it uniformly. And we screened and we cajoled and we discussed and we wrote letters and so forth. And here's what they issued on conservation standards, and you can see your agency as well as your sister agencies throughout the region. And they range from 12% lowest, which was Sweetwater Water District, which includes National City and some of the areas that have much smaller footprints for their residential, all the way up to, I think it's 4 of our agencies have the highest number, 36. It was painful for everyone, painful for your agency and your customers, and certainly painful for our region. Oops, okay, now we did it. Oh, there we go. It was 20%, was the average across the region, was about 20%. So what did we do? We supported our agencies by really pressing hard in our outreach campaign. And you probably saw a lot of this, whether it was billboards or radio ads or what have you, because we heard if the agencies weren't going to reach those goals, fines were possible. And our job was to ensure we did whatever we could to help you reach your goal. And I think we did a good job, and certainly our member agencies did a fabulous job. So you can see what happened since June of 2015 through January of 2016. We were 23% lower than we were in 2013, and that's on the regional average, where our objective was 20%. Not all agencies hit it every single month, but the vast, vast majority of our member agencies were able to achieve it. So, you know, if they helped once, they're gonna help again. And in November of 2013, they came and helped us again. And that was the executive order of November 13th, the early Christmas gift of, hey, we're gonna extend the regs, which was, oh dear Lord, you know, help us. You know, just leave us alone. So here's what we did. We really, first of all, there was a group, a very small select group of agency representatives throughout the state that convened in the fall to basically start looking at proposals for modification. And I'm pleased to say the Water Authority was asked to send one of our reps, and we did. One of my staff members, Dana Freehoff, who I believe has been here and is working on the drought 24/7, she was part of this, and it was extremely helpful. We also initiated extensive local outreach in an effort to make sure our community knew what was going on. The state board during that time received 248 written comments, and 169 of them were from San Diego. And it was fabulous to have that support. And it was support from individual residents all the way to chambers of commerce, to businesses, to the member agencies, to cities, what have you. It got to the point I met with the chair of the state board right after the comments time period closed. She's like, Maureen, what did you do? And I said, I just told them what was going on. I said, it gives you a sense of how serious we are about what's happening down here. And she said, I get it, I get it. So that was helpful. We provided formal oral comments and numerous meetings, phone calls. I've spoken personally to the individual board members. I can't tell you how many times. Because eventually it's squeaky wheel, just boil it and let it, you know, let it go. So on January 15th, they proposed emergency regulations, modifications to those emergency regs, and they proposed to begin recognizing the development of drought-resistant supplies through proposed local supply credits. Now, it failed to fully recognize or credit the supply investments. They maxed it out at 8%, and they had a floor that everyone had to conserve at least 8%. So even if you develop local supply credits and you got them, you can't go below 8% in your requirement. They should include a requirement department to reevaluate their drought regs based on both the objectives, what are they trying to do? And this is the one where we kept hounding on, one size does not fit all. You have areas within California that are out of water. Why are you paying attention to a region that's storing their unused supplies in a reservoir? So, and we got them to agree not to use this round, this structure, these formulas for future droughts. That the chairwoman personally told me, this is not precedence. I assure you this isn't precedent setting. So on February 2nd, the emergency regs were adopted, and they did include the local supply credit. We coordinated with the agencies, including Vallecitos, and submitted the required certification by the 22nd, and the result we were early local supply credit achievers. And our conservation goal on a regional level went from 20% to 13%, and here's what it looks like for the agencies. So the 8% credit was granted across the board except for Valley Center, which has a unique thing about how much ag is in their numbers and how much is M&I. But everybody else got 8% with the exception of Sweetwater, which has a minimum conservation requirement of 8%, because they were already down at 12. These are really big credits. This should help each of our agencies in the entire region not only address some of the issues we've all been struggling with. Let's try, how about deep watering trees? How about, how do you trade out your landscaping when you can't water new plants? Those kind of things, we now will be able to achieve them. So, let me tell you good news. Good news is, here's the precipitation index. This is normal. This is last year. This is my favorite line. And this is, you can see in March, they went through about 8 days of straight precipitation. You've probably read it in the newspapers. So we're 131% normal as of last Monday. Here's the snowpack. That's what it normally looks like. It was abysmal last year, and here's where we're at. But we've got about 2 weeks of forecast of not much. So we're hoping it's just a little respite, and then we'll get back to it. We're at 102 as of Monday. So that's the good news. And then here's Oroville. Here's what it normally looks like. Here's where it was last year, and here's where we're at now. So we hit normal for this time period. The real question is, will we get enough precipitation and runoff that we're going to achieve at least that 3 million acre feet? I'd like to be higher, but I'll even take average at this point. So it's about 73%. So that's good news. That's good news. Whatever happening, and it is an El Nino. I'm telling you, climatologists, what are you going to do with them? It's one of the few, I think the few jobs where you can be wrong more than half the time and you still have a job. I don't know, it drives me crazy. Anyways, so people talk about, oh, El Nino will be our salvation. But you can see what the averages are compared to this is our total water demands. And even in the last really big 1998 El Nino, it only represented 19% of our water supply. So we went from about a 5% of local runoff to about 19% of local runoff. But it isn't the answer to our issues. We love El Nino, but it's not the total answer. Okay, and then I wanted to give you just a little highlight on our urban water management plan, which is, okay, let's look at the future. Where are we going with our water demands? Where are those all heading? And the urban water management plan has 6 elements that have to be included in it. And I really want to focus on the scenario planning, the shortage planning, and our water supplies, kind of what our mix is. So let me talk about land use planning. You know how we basically do our urban water management plan. We have the cities and the county's general plan goes into Sandag's plan, and they do the regional growth forecast. And we are required by law an adoption of Proposition C or B many years ago, where we actually are coupled with the Sandag regional forecast. Out of that, we get the projected water demands. We've got modeling and overlays that we do on Sandags based on basically zoning, use of the parcels and so forth. And that, then out of that demand and then our supply comparison, we come up with the plan itself. And then that goes back into Sandag's regional plan. It's for the member agencies to do your water assessments, that SB 610 and 221, your verifications for development. And then it goes back into city and county plans. This is interesting because this is Sandag's projections on growth from 2020 to 2040. And what I find most interesting is look at the housing and look at the split between single and multifamily. It's dramatically changing, and that means our water demands will change dramatically. This is an extremely important piece of information for us, which is they're moving into multifamily housing, particularly down in more intense urban areas. They're not doing single-family homes anymore. So I thought that was interesting. So when we do a demand forecast, we start with our baseline demand, we add the increment, we deduct conservation, our conservation projections, and that gives us our long-range demand forecast. So in the Series 13, Sandag included the impact based on the Great Recession, as they call it. So they basically took in the 2008 to 2011. What does that mean? We know growth slowed down substantially, even coming out. This idea that we would recover and come back exactly as we were in 07 just wasn't going to happen. It incorporates the 2010 census count, and you can see it has a lower projected housing growth than it was prior to 2008. And then the near-term growth, we're coming out of it, but it's the early years will slowly build up to it. So that's what they're projecting, and therefore that's what we're doing. On the change conditions leading to the alternative conservation savings that we anticipate, we've got SB 7-7, which is 20% by 2020. So we know that we're continuing to conserve. And future demands are anticipated in some type of expansion of that concept. Some have talked about 30% by 2030. Some have talked about other water use efficiency regulations. So we know there'll be some long-term impact in conservation. And then in order to estimate our conservation savings, we're disaggregating, it's called the disaggregated bottoms-up methodology. And what it is we used to really focus on more of the active conservation, which is put in a ultra-low flush toilet or put in a clothes washer, and there's your savings. And now it's moving into really the behavior modification. And it's moving into not only, doing specific things to improvements to cut your water use, but also the behavior. And so you can see in this chart the active and passive breakdown. It's quite substantial. Active is, it's you stick something in and it does it. Passive is really the behavior modification, and we're seeing quite a bit of change. So what does that mean versus when we did the urban water management plan in 2010? This is where we're at right now. That's an actual fiscal year 2015 water demand. And this is the pie charts. When I show you the 2020 pie chart and the 2035 pie chart, those are the numbers I'm using. This is what we anticipate are the numbers for the 2015 demands, starting just under 600,000 acre feet and going by 2040 to just over 700. But in 2010, this is what we projected. So you can see the efficiency and the slowing down of our economy. Those projections were lower than we were, that projecting less water demand than we did in 2010. And I'll give you, let's see. So, for example, do 2035. We thought we were going to be at, it looks like 786 in 2010 would be our water demand for a normal year. And it looks like we're gonna be at 675, so about 100,000 acre feet less of water due to, again, efficiency and a little bit slower in our growth itself. And we also are planning on lots of local supply development, as I talked to you earlier. Surface water will remain about the same. We're not building any new reservoirs. Water recycling is increased, groundwater is increased, desalination is increased, and that's the OTI deal with Rosarito. And potable reuse, look at potable reuse. 8,300 to 126,000 by 2040. So you can see we have achieved basically what we had hoped to, which was a fully diversified portfolio. And this is the stacking of the water. The blue is the imperial water. The next one up is canal linings, that pink or red. The orange is the Carlsbad desalination. The light blue is surface water. The gray, light gray, is groundwater. The purple is potable reuse.
And recycle.
Oh, recycling. The dark gray is potable reuse. And then we have member agency desalination, and that's the Vallecitos Carlsbad desalination. And then MWD's up at the top. And you can see that little bar that's sitting kind of out on its own. And that is, if for some reason our agencies are unsuccessful in, for example, achieving potable reuse at the level they think, we will by 2025, 2030, right in there, have to make a decision whether we move ahead with like Camp Pendleton desalination plant and build another plant up there. I don't believe we can expand in the Carlsbad, so it'd be up at Camp Pendleton. But if potable reuse can continue, then we won't be necessary. We'll move it into the 2040 timeframe, and that little thing will move again. So, I'm happy to answer any questions. I brought three things. One is the drought regulations, but this is not updated based on Monday's decision about the local supply credits. I don't know, I didn't have a chance to bring that. Our water authority rate case and reliable water supply. So anyways, thank you for your attention. I really appreciate it. And I am happy to answer questions on this or anything, or if I don't know the answer, I'll get you the answer.
Well, Marie, first off, thank you. That was extremely informative and very valuable to me. So thank you for coming out. And I will open it up to my colleagues for questions. And I see that Director Martin has his hand up.
Thank you. Fantastic report. Thank you very much, Marie. Couple of questions. The decision of $235 million is now going to be appellate court,
Correct,
which this judge has no jurisdiction.
correct,
And then that we should have an answer by the end of 2017.
correct.
But then it'll probably go to the Supreme Court.
May, or that, who knows?
Why would they not?
Oh, they can petition, and I would presume if you lose, you would, but the Supreme Court does not automatically. You know, they take it up based on their interest.
I'm just saying, I don't want people to get excited about getting all this money in a check in the mail, which our ratepayers will say, oh, I'm gonna get a check.
Yeah,
Portable reuse, and I just came back from portable reuse conference.
oh, right.
And there was a lot of rain up there, by the way.
It
So
rained
much
almost
that
10 days.
all three major dams are opening gates and letting it out because they're afraid they're getting too much rain.
Yeah, and
So
they're just
a
about
lot
to
of it is
use
going
the
away.
YOLO bypass. Was that, yeah? I mean, it's getting that big up north.
But it was interesting, in a room full of 300 people, I would say 90% were engineers. they were like drinking reuse. In the electeds, we were like, some of us were like, really? We heard the story about the spacemen, and we heard the story about the Colorado River, but they still have not got a criteria for reuse. And so they're all working on getting to a goal that there is no finish line to. And already, my understanding is, you're thinking of, rather than bringing the water to San Vicente, which is a large body of water, you're gonna shortcut the process already before it's even out of the ground and bring it to Miramar, which is a much smaller body of water for it to dilute in. I have real health concerns about that, and I think everybody does, other than if you're in the industry. People in the industry, but when I talk to people, friends of mine about it, they look at me like, yeah, okay. It's not the same. When you're in the industry, the engineers are all, we can do it. You know,
Yeah.
maybe.
I did hear about the city not, possibly not using San Vicente and using Miramar instead, and it's because of the big giant pipe that has to go up to San Vicente, and that's a couple $100 million probably.
Sure.
And if they can shortcut that, you know, that's to their advantage, absolutely. On Padres, they would put it in the Santee Lakes and then take it out downstream and use it there again.
Right, but they still don't have a finish line of where they have to get to with a stopgap, a kiss from Mother Earth, and a fail-safe method if something were to go wrong, people don't die.
Right.
They don't have that.
Right, and I think that.
They're far from there.
I think there's a whole lot, as you know, Director Martin, there's a whole lot that's being done by these scientific panels that are kind of out and about. And I think the issue is technology-wise, we're there, but I agree with you. It's can you get your community to feel like your water is safe and safe to drink, healthy to drink. And that comes from high treatment level, and then it goes back into raw water and comes back out and is treated again. The bottom line is when it comes out of that first treatment plant, even if it goes to a reservoir that's closer, you still have a quality requirement coming out of the treatment plant. Remember, it has to come out as purified, treated water, drinkable, potable water. Then it goes back in raw water, it comes back out again. You know, and this idea, Factory 29, I forgot what they called it, because 29's not very sexy. In Orange County, they put it in the ground and bring it back out. Well, Mother Nature is not down there kissing that water somehow and making it better than if it goes in a reservoir. It's just going into raw water and coming back out. So our polls, we do public polls and we do them every 2 years. Our polls are showing we have nearly, I believe it's over 70% support for potable reuse. It's amazing, but.
And I understand that a lot of that has to do with who's taking the poll. No offense to you as an organization. But the last thing is, they kept putting that health is important. They kept saying that. And I'm like, no, health is paramount. It's not important.
Right.
It's paramount, but they don't use those terms. So
Health is
it
important?
concerns me. Health is important. It's like, really?
I totally agree with that one. Health is important.
That's
No,
what they
health
were
is
using.
a yes or a no.
Right.
If it's a no, you can't do it. If it's a yes, I mean, it's an essential. It's either a yes or a no. It's not like, well, we're close.
Right. Thank you very much. Great presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And for all you do, and I know it's a lot.
Well, I do want you to know that, you know, Vallecitos has always been actively engaged at the Water Authority, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate Dennis and Betty and the engagement and the keeping us informed of what's important to you, and then us being able to share back to you and letting you know kind of what's going on. Because we can't do it by ourselves, and we're here to provide service to you and to make sure that you don't worry about where your water's coming from.
Any other questions? Director Hernandez.
With the 8% reduction that we received because of everything we've been doing for 15, 20 years, Do you think there's still a need to be aggressively pushing on the State Water Board to even reduce that further?
Absolutely. We are not done. We have won a battle. I don't believe we've won the war. What we're doing is we're focusing in two different areas with them, and they know it. And we're very vocal and engaged with them. The first one is that they should, any future regulations have got to look at the water supplies available in the region before they impose any action, that it has to be customized on a regional basis. Secondly, we have proposed to them, just as you have emergency declarations when you have wildfires by county, that they should only do emergency water regulations in the same manner. Meaning, they don't get to say, we're in a drought, we're gonna impose drought regulations statewide. They have to go county by county and do findings. And at least I'm getting some nods.
And do you have a plan B, C, or D if the nods that you're getting are just pacification and it ends up the same?
Yes, sir. We don't rest, if you've noticed. We don't take no easily for an answer. I think we've had so many conversations that, and they have realized the limitations of these regulations. I think they've also realized they've been so busy trying to regulate over 400 water agencies. They really have taken away resources from those areas in the state that are actually missing water. And so we've said, you need to, we're okay with you evaluating the region by region, but when a region can handle itself, let us go and take your staff resources and your money resources and put it to whether it be Central Valley or some of these agencies that are truly missing water and are in dire straits. And they nod. We also have ongoing communication in the governor's office, as well as keep all of our legislators involved, engaged, and up to date on what's going on. In those 169 comment letters, a number of them were from our own legislators.
Anything here from my left? Director Elhart?
Yeah, I was anxious to ask you about the Camp Pendleton decel possibility, and you answered it in the last slide, so thanks.
You're
But,
welcome.
I didn't really have any other questions, but I wanted to thank you for taking the time to come up here. It was very informative.
Camp Pendleton is really unusual, and they're a great, great partner. They have a long-term need for water, not only water supply, but some water quality issues, as you're probably aware of, since you're in North County. And the current general, as well as the past generals, have been so supportive of us. And we're actually in our second or third phase of studies, where we're actually doing the ocean floor studies right now.
For intake.
And the intake. And I always say, when the general says we need to be bomb-proof, they're not kidding. So it's the one place where I think that phrase really applies. But they've been great partners to work with, and we're very pleased.
Well, I would like to say thank you very much. You did a beautiful job. It's a very complicated and many faceted business, especially for the Water Authority and the expansion between all the agencies, plus all the regions we're drawing water from. I truly appreciate that you've been able to really inform the board on the issues. It's not like we have, I don't do a presentation, and it's wonderful to have you present it so beautifully for them. And maybe I'll just have to schedule you once a quarter.
Director Lamb?
If I might,
Or-
and
General Manager Lamb?
Ms. Stapleton hit on it, was with the ongoing negotiations that we're looking at the state, we got the 8% because that was a number they,
Yeah.
ooh, that hurts. That's just a number they picked at 8%, but we actually have 24% in decel. So when we made that choice 10 years ago to move forward with decel, it was under the Water Authority's plan, which is if you have a local supply, you get that full credit back plus. We would have been to the 110% of our supply. But again, this is a regulatory, so that's what we're still pushing for in these negotiations, was when you spend the money to build it, you get it.
Mhm.
That's what we're looking at from a regional standpoint, so that's one of the pushes I'm still working with Dana, to
Right.
make sure that we get it, but that's our big push from our standpoint, is if you build it, we should be given credit for it.
And we're not gonna rest until that happens, because you saw the local supply development, and we feel obligated to partner with our member agencies to make sure you get those credits. It's not just our credits, it's your credits are equally important, so, you know, this is a journey. Is it perfect right now? No, but we're making progress, and we will continue to be, you know, bugging them on a regular basis, keeping our legislators informed, engaging with our governor's office. They're sick of me too. And just to make sure that we ultimately get what we need.
I wanted to give everybody else a chance to ask their questions. I did have one question as well, Maureen.
Sure.
I love the term that you mentioned earlier, regulatory drought, and that's kind of what really gets my blood boiling in this industry, if you will. And I just had a question, because it seems when the conservation mandates came out, there was this huge push for public awareness and outreach to get the message out, this is what needs to be done. But with this regulatory drought, I think if you talk to people who are in the water industry in one way or another,
Mhm.
we all know, you hear a lot of things about, you know, some frustration about Sacramento and the governor, but there hasn't been that public push to get that message out. Is that because the folks that are leading this charge, they decided that they want to maybe try to negotiate in good faith at first, or is it because due to polling that doesn't poll very well? What's the reason for it?
No, I guess maybe it's, let me back up. The push was immediate and the push was hard. And I think you saw results of that with the nearly 170 letters that went into the state board. It was a constant push. And I will tell you, that modification that showed up in January, remember when the governor announced in November, he had that executive order? The executive order had a specific provision that talked about allowing the state board to modify their existing regulations in November. That did not come out of thin air. That came out of the calls, the letters, the meetings, the proposals, the push. Every single place we could push in Sacramento, we pushed. This didn't just happen to us. This happened because we had an entire community laser focused on the investments we made and demanded we be heard. That didn't just happen, and we worked hard for that. And I promise you, we will continue to work equally hard to move it. You know, politics is a strange thing, and there's, you know, a lot of work has to be done behind the scenes. You can't come up in their face sometimes, you get nowhere. But when that November one came out, I knew about it before it came out, because we wanted that permission to move off the 25% statewide cut, and we wanted the state board to have the permission to make those changes. Because I knew if I couldn't get it in the governor's office, the state board would say, sorry, Maureen, go talk to the governor. So we had to go from one to the other to success.
Yep. I hope I didn't confuse you with my question. It wasn't that I was questioning that you guys weren't putting forth the effort. There's no doubt about it. I don't see I don't see us taking it to the governor from the court of public opinion point of view. When I talk to my neighbors, they don't understand the regulatory drought. They understand the drought, kind of, but they don't understand where the real root cause of this is for our specific region here in San Diego. And the only thing was there any reason, there's not a thing for our buck to kind of take that message to the general public? I know the businesses and those who are in water, and as you mentioned, the chambers and everybody else, and the farmers, I'm sure, and it was a collaborative effort.
Yes.
And your voices were loud and clear, I'm sure. But I don't think my next door neighbors, for example, and everybody's next door neighbors really kind of understand that. When you go to talk to them about it, in a way, you can almost come across like you're shifting the blame to the governor, but really, truly, the governor's to blame.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
So I was kind of curious why we
Yeah.
didn't try to kind of shift the court of public opinion to the governor, like we did with, like my neighbors, for example, they put up, the water authority's orange, conservation
in
signs.
drought.
Yeah, when in drought signs. So there was this huge outreach and awareness campaign
Mhm.
around the conservation piece, but the general public doesn't seem to have a really good grasp on the regulatory drought part of it.
Yeah, we have done between 2015, June of 15 to today, we've done over 250 public presentations. And so I've been at North County Chamber, I've been at, every chamber probably. And I think the real issue is we need your help, each agency's help, in either sponsoring maybe workshops or whatever. We have our outreach, but we really need the member agencies to engage, to suggest how we can outreach even more effectively. So if you have any ideas, or if you're willing to do a workshop for your community, or, I don't know, a get-together coffee, or whatever works for your community, we have found that we have to customize our outreach based on the community. So I really would love to hear any ideas you have, or if you have any speaking opportunities, please, let Dennis know, and Dennis will call down and we'll get it on our calendar. I personally speak probably 10 times a month. I'm out talking to people. So I really appreciate the opportunity.
We've got a really big push on public outreach
Oh,
the last
excellent.
18 months or so too, so.
Excellent.
Great. Well, if there's, Director Martin, you had one more thing?
So just one quick question, if you
Uh-huh.
go back to what we just came off of, it was up there the entire time. My question is on groundwater, because we have a difference of opinion here, and maybe you can help me out with it. Groundwater, you show a slight increase between now and 2025.
Yeah.
And then steady to 2040.
Yeah,
So where's the groundwater coming from that we now get?
yeah. It's the expansion of the San Diego River, which is Sweetwater predominantly, and then Oceanside. Those are the
Right.
two big, that's the San Juan River,
San Luis
San Luis
Rey.
Rey.
San Luis Rey.
Thank you, San Luis Rey. I've got too many rivers in my head right now. And so those two are talking about expansion. We got about a tablespoon of water, I swear, compared to others. In Southern California, the largest aquifer holds 900,000 acre feet. We have 19,000. We're the smallest of Southern California. I have a map somewhere, and I'm happy to give it to Dennis to share, but we have so little groundwater because we have so many fissures because of the canyons. It's just our geology. We're
If
geologic
you could do that, I would
challenged.
appreciate that, because I'd appreciate a copy of that.
Yeah.
Showing the
I'll
groundwater, where
shoot
it
that
is in
up
the
to you
county,
guys.
where it isn't.
You bet, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
It was a
thank you.
magnificent presentation.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I know I spoke a long time, and I really appreciate the time. I really do, and I'm happy to come back and answer any questions or do a presentation anytime.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thanks, Maureen.
Okay. Moving on to our collection systems department presentation, and no pressure, but that's gonna be difficult to follow.
You have Patrick here before you. Is it loaded up for him, Diane? Okay. And, as I recall, you may recall, I've tried to bring a different group in of the employees before you once a month, and we're kind of going into our second round. And some of you may have seen the wastewater side, some of you may not have been on the board at that point. But again, this is just to go into showing you the activities, I like their title, Beneath the Glamour, for the wastewater side.
Good title.
So Patrick's just gonna walk you through, and again, he'll just give you a quick rundown of what it is the wastewater collection systems department does. Take it away, Pat.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Thanks for our presentation. I'm gonna tell Eno Struthers.
Yes.
Okay, he's my professor and I'm late for my intern, so I'm Anyway, thank you guys for having me. Thanks Eric and Ed for, I'm representing the collection department, operations and maintenance, and we'll move forward. Collection systems department, Beneath the Glamour. collection's a daily task. Our daily tasks begin with rounds, trioxin reads, liquid, H2S sampling. We have a FOG program, which is, stands for fats, oils, and grease. CCTV inspections. T4 spatial program, the cloud. Safety protocols, combination truck routine, smoke testing, odor scrubbers, and department goals. Right now, we currently cleaned about 1.2 million linear feet, which is about 240 to 249 miles of 4 to 12-inch pipe that we try to get through annually. We're getting through faster than that, seems like. We have about 150,000 linear feet of 15 to 24-inch pipe, which would be our main lines. And we have about 36,000 linear feet of 27-inch to 42-inch pipe, which is pretty much our main outfall, which runs to Encina. We have 6,738 manholes that we pop, I'd say about twice a year, all of them. We have 569 cleanouts, and right here, here we go. So our daily skater rounds and e-logger check. Basically, this is how our day starts out, and SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. It's a system for remote monitoring and control that operates and codes signals over communication channels. So a simple version would be system used for gathering and analyzing real-time data. This is a way for us to keep track on our system. As you can see, Craig here is looking at, this is actually lift station 1, and there's 2 pumps that are red here, and the grinders are red, and then at this point in time, LS1 is down for construction. And so that's what that is, and he's actually logging this. He's looking at a flow meter here, and logging it into the logger, which is a new program that we've implemented this year, and it's been very effective. It saves where you're at standing, and it could be looked at in the office 5 seconds later by whomever. So it's pretty good.
The little pad that he's got there, that's what they take with them in the field. And so they do all the work, and it's automatic. Back in.
Questions as we go along?
Sure. Director Martin?
A couple of quick questions, and I'm sorry to ask you that. Lift station 1 is down for getting, what do we use in its place? What happens?
Right now, usually Don would take 2.5 million gallons to the plant, and there's 2 Waterman gates there. So right now, we have a Waterman gates closed, which is completely bypassing LS1. Everything that gets pumped from LS1 goes to MRF. But right now that it's down, it's under construction, it's basically doubled the flow to Encina, which is about 5 million gallons a day. So everything's getting bypassed the LS1 station and goes straight to the outfall of Encina as of now.
And how long is that lift station down for?
It should be down for about another month, and we should have flow back.
And is that playing a lot of checkers at Meadowlark? What are they doing down there if it's all being bypassed?
It's taking over,
Is what?
local.
They're taking local flow, and they also take
Lake San Marcos.
flow from the lake. Everything that gets pumped to the lake goes to MRF, the lake pump station.
Okay.
We have 4 pump stations, one's Montiel, LS1.
But it's being underused right now because you can't get anything to it.
Correct.
My question is, do we pay more to Encina? Because now we're sending more flow to them?
Yeah, what you do is you pay, and we're actually about the same cost as Encina overall. So if we send it to them, we're paying for the additional liquid, but we already own the ownership of it, so we don't have to pay anything else. So if we send them an extra $1 million and it costs $1 a gallon during this period, we would spend $1 million there, but we wouldn't be doing the chemicals and all the stuff up here. So you get an opposite either way. And the way we meet our reclamation demand was they scheduled it to where Olevenhagen and Carlsbad would have to be at their minimum demand during winter months, and we had the reservoir full beforehand. So there's plenty of water for them to pull, similar to how the Water Authority does. I use my left hand. If I was Italian, I could use both hands. Similar to the Water Authority, they only do shutdowns in the winter months, so our demand's half of what it is normally, and we rely on potable storage. So the same concept.
And what's an e-logger check?
An e-logger check.
Skater rounds and
The
e-logger check.
e-logger check is just basically, e-logger is just a way of logging the data. live, with a live save. I save it, if I'm in the field and I save whatever I'm doing on rounds, you'd be able to look at it in the office as a matter of seconds.
And I'm sorry I missed you on the first one, but the T4 spatial program, the cloud, well, what is that?
It's a new program that we're implementing. I've been working one-on-one with Ed Richards as far as engineering. Basically, it's part of the future. It's a way to where we can be in the field, and be monitored as far as where we're at lively with the Fire Stick, with being in the truck and stuff like that. And it's been very beneficial to our CCTV program, which basically we bring the trucks in, we download it to a hard drive, and then we're able to send it to Ed, data team, and within 24 hours he has it back down. And so it'd be beneficial to the entire district as far as engineers and working all together as one. In the future, it's got the potential of being something pretty magical.
Thank you very much.
And just to touch on the Marshall, and I think we have 6.97 million gallons that we're allowed to send in SEMA without going over.
Thank you.
Skate arounds continue here. Skate arounds are conducted daily. This ensures a system that is flowing correctly and data entries are stored into e-logger. This keeps all records current and ongoing in history. This e-logger application was custom built by Thomas Pierre, specifically for the system collection data entry. He designed it. All kudos to him.
He's our employee, correct?
Yeah.
Is it patent pending by Vallecitos Water District?
Yeah.
He has existing software, he just put it into a program that worked for us.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Applying enzymes for fog, fats, oil, and grease. We currently maintain 17 fats, oils, and grease application manholes. There used to be 31, but we took off 14 application manholes have been removed since the district has implemented the fog control program.
So you've been able to take them off?
Yeah, just due to
Because the program's working?
correct, which is due to like Corey's good work with the quality control, and he's been able to monitor, which is.
Could you go back and explain to them what the enzyme is?
Buzz.
Enzymes basically with the, I'm not too educated on the actual stuff that we're putting on it, but it's supposed to break down all the grease within the pipe and make sure that it doesn't cause any blockages. It's like, think of it as a treatment, it's like a light treatment, like bugs in a treatment plant, being able to eat it and digest it and break it down to where it sends it downstream without causing any blockages. That's the main goal, is to protect public health and not have any spills. Right now we have 20 real-time flow meters, monitoring stations used for dry and wet weather trending with high and low flow alarming capabilities. Injury prevention, as you can see here, we try to prevent any injuries using all safety PPEs, anti-freeze vests, hard hats, safety glasses, gloves. So we're always in the street, so we try to use all the phones we can. And at this point, if you look real close, this camera right here is really heavy. A lot of times you have to use the tool to get in sometimes, but here we're using the crane. It's the safest way possible. The CCTV van.
Quick question on that. I get nervous every time I see Caltrans workers.
Yeah.
Pacific Valley, and you guys, when I see you out in the middle of the street, it just makes me nervous because drivers are crazy. Do you have a lot of problems with that? I mean, I know you cone for it, but do you have a lot of new misses out there?
I mean, all we can do is implement the training that we've been trained with, safety and traffic control and that kind of thing, using all our equipment that we have as far as the right signage and cones and that kind of thing. But, yeah, it's always a worry, to be honest. It's a constant in the back of your head being out in the field, yeah. To answer your question, yeah, it's nerve-wracking sometimes, but you know what? Someone's gotta do it.
Good attitude.
Not me.
So the CCTV van is responsible for performing urine finals, routine inspections, and miscellaneous inspections that need to be completed. The CCTV unit has incorporated a new software, T4 Spatial, that is a cloud-based storage for all the department's videos inspections. It can be easily accessed by the engineering department with a simple username and password. This will give the district greater access of data for future capital projects. CCTV inspections, pretty self-explanatory. We pretty much go in and monitor the pipe and look for any voids. This is a constant routine. Here we have our operator, George. He's located some cast iron pipe here that's eroded, and so it's just normal routine. Attitudes that we don't know how that one got up there. Collection department vehicles. We have 3 combination cleaning trucks. I'll touch on that. We have 3 sub-basins, basically 16 smaller basins within that. It averages about 5 or 6 areas within the 3. And we try to dispatch 2 guys on each truck daily and try to acquire about anywhere from 6,000 to 7,000 feet a day. 1 closed circuit TV inspection van. We have 1 jetter trailer used for cleaning easements and smaller diameter sewer lines. This unit can also be used in conjunction with the CCTV for removing and cleaning the lines for higher quality efficiency. We have 1 confined space entry truck and 1 spill response trailer.
Hey, Patrick, before you go on, I noticed that in the corner of my eye, a hand that went up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I barely saw it, so don't worry.
What's the department size? How many people in your department?
I believe it's 13, right? 12.
Well, and 3 combination cleaning trucks, are those 3 trucks out every day, or is it in combination with the closed circuit? Or do you have 4 trucks out?
Yeah, ideally 4 trucks is production.
Every day?
We try, it's hard, but yeah.
And is everyone cross-trained?
Absolutely.
For instance, can everyone handle the CCTV?
That's one benefit that I'll vouch for Vallecitos. I came from a different district where it was very selective on who was doing what, and I'd have to say that's everybody's cross-trained, and it's benefited the district tremendously, to tell you the truth.
Great,
I
thank you.
think that's
Thank you
something
very
that's awesome. Here is a routine cleaning. Are you guys familiar with routine cleaning at all?
Just routine.
I do my
Basically
housework.
right here,
You only floss the ones you want to keep.
Right. Well, basically our goal is routine cleaning is public health, that related to what Maureen said. It's to make sure that we don't have any spills and people can flush their toilets. Unfortunately, it's a lot of times we go under scene because it's out of sight, out of mind type of business. But right here we have a 2,500 PSI capable hose, and it's a hydraulic pump. This truck right here can hold about 1,000 gallons in this tank here, and this tank here is a debris tank. So the debris tank here is simply made for just this snorkel here. Just in case there's debris, we'll get the pipes off the side, stick them in there, and we'll suck up the debris if we need to. But for the most part, routine cleaning consists of 2 operators, one lining up the guy driving, and then engaging the PTO, which is the hydraulic system for the pump. And then you put the hydraulic jetter in here, which is a scouring. It's like a high pressure jetting. It's like a missile that spits out water at about 2,500 PSI, and it shoots up the pipe about 2,000 PSI, and then we bring it back down slow to 1,000, and it scours the pipe and it cleans it.
Director Evans.
Patrick, so this truck right here, this is one of the 3 combination cleaning trucks?
Correct.
Okay, that's it.
This is the combination truck, and the reason they call it a combination truck is because it can do 2 different things, one which is clean and the other which is actually vacuum out the debris. So Department facts. We have any other questions? Okay. Department facts continued. 16 odor control monitoring manholes, 12 above ground carbon scrubbers, and 4 new style subsurface scrubbers, and 5 after today. Construction just installed a new one at the top of Discovery.
Can you explain?
I got some
New style?
pictures coming up
Oh, okay.
for you. An average of 15,000 gallons of trioxin is used monthly for an additional odor control at 4 locations throughout the district. The trioxin is used as an effort to control or suspend the sulfide odors in the sewer. Liquid samples are taken Monday through Friday at 5 locations throughout the district. And I'll touch on this. The trioxin is injected basically to lower the nitrates. And the nitrates are the trioxin is injected as nitrates to lower the sulfides. And the sulfides are what create the odors in the sewer. It sits there, it gets septic, and so we inject the trioxin to control the sulfides. And the reason we take our tests with through our samples is we can determine the levels. If we're high in nitrates, then we know that the residual is we're pumping too much, so we need to lower it. And if we're high on sulfides, then we know, okay, we need to higher the trioxin to lower the sulfides.
And
Make
you do,
sense? No, it's okay.
and you do that on a daily basis? Daily basis.
We take, I say it's high, we're very prideful and very concerned with that, it being an issue, especially in other sister cities, Carlsbad and that kind of thing, so we take some pride.
If I may, where are the 4 locations where we have the additional odor control?
As far as the trioxin injections,
Mhm.
okay, we have basically, we have LS1, which is lift station 1, and then we have the lake, and then we have Poinsettia, and then we have Moniel, which are pretty much all our pump stations.
Okay.
Every one but Poinsettia, that's just pumped into our main line, which is our siphon, which dumps out over here off of El Camino Real and Palomar Port Road, and it pumps, and so we pump directly into there, so it doesn't,
Yeah.
it goes through the siphon, pumps.
There it is.
Director Martin, you had another question?
Quick question, have you ever had the reason, I'm sure you have, been called out to Mission and Mulberry, where over the years there's consistency of, there's a problem there with odor, and I've heard it's when they're missing compost, it's from the dairy, the cows, I've heard just about pigs, I've heard just about every excuse. Do we know what it's from? Well, if we do,
Permission to
tell us.
My personal opinion is.
Ed might have some history on this, but Director Martin, every time we have gotten a call, we've gone out and checked our sewers. And every time we have found it's the dairy, it was loading or unloading, it was spraying. We've never found that it was the sewer system itself smelling, causing the odors.
So it is the dairy.
Yeah, yeah. It was the dairy, it was the property across the street. You gotta remember from Indian. Let's see, we're going to arbitration Tuesday.
Pig
Let's just
farm.
say there was a lot deposited over the years that when it gets wet, it resurfaces. But we do check it every time there's no complaint.
I always get nervous when people look over at Dennis for an answer.
He's only been here for a short time.
Because he knows.
I was gonna say Glenn.
You're doing awesome.
Carry on.
All right, so carbon storage to touch on the questions here. This is our old version here, which is above ground. As you can see, it's a beautiful piece of art. It's lovely to look at and walk by and see. So as you can see, if you look real close, this tree here is this exact same tree here, and there's actually it's underground and it's undersurface, and we've moved to a different carbon, which is come through our own studies that it's a little bit better, lasts longer, and absorbs the smell a little better. And this carbon scrubber actually holds a little bit more, so it's a little bit more effective long-term wise, and it's a little less of a maintenance issue.
Where is that carbon scrubber?
It's completely underground, you can't even see it, it's right here. This
Oh.
is- Oh, where is it, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's Discovery.
Where'd you get bit? In the backyard?
6 feet under now.
Citizen Collections Department, spill response trailer. The spill response trailer is used for temporary high lines or pump arounds when the sewer line becomes blocked and has potential of discharging sewer, causing a sanitary sewer overflow, which is also known as the SSO. This equipment gives the department a single location for our 2-inch and 4-inch pumps that their suction and discharge hoses. The trailer can be quickly mobilized, decreasing the SSO amount and minimizing the impact of the environment and public health. Here it is. Here's our trailer here. And currently, we have two 4-inch trash pumps that are capable of pumping about 420 gallons per minute each one, and plus the 2-inch, which is a little under 200. It's about, we set everything up, it's about 1,000 gallons per minute. And it's ready to go at all times, which this is a huge benefit to us.
Is this what we did when that spill, that way y'all went racing out to stop the sewer not too long ago?
Oh, on the outfall connection?
On the outfall, is this the kind of thing that would go out and?
This is the kind of thing, that particular situation was, a little bit bigger, on a bigger scale. So
Right.
we needed to call, a lot of help in, but yes, but to answer your question.
But we did, without a lot of help, we had actually stopped a lot from spilling, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All the sister cities came in and helped out, and it was a really great group effort, the way they came together.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Was that the burp?
The burp,
Or-
the burp,
I didn't realize there was a substantial spill. I thought it was a burp.
big pipe,
The burp.
could have been.
It was big enough that Dennis had to call me at noon. There's a policy apparently.
Anyway, the next one we have is the smoke testing. As you can see here, we put our smoker in, and basically what we're looking for here, the main objective is to look for illegal connections. We're looking for anybody who's got toilets in the backyards, or they're connecting trailers into the sewer system, and any extra infiltration or inflow, we'll be able to detect it through the smoke testing.
Does that smoke come out of the top of his house?
Right here,
Mhm.
yeah, right here is
Is
the
that-
actual, the P traps, and that's what we're looking for. This is a customer who's connected correctly. A lot of times we'll get a little smoke out of the ground, and we clean out and fix it, as a courtesy.
Do we have a lot of people who have, not exactly legal hookups when you do this? Not really.
We've done it 5 times since I've been here, 6 times.
Cool.
What would trigger you to, what reasonable cause do you have before you go and do this and test it to see if
Yeah,
somebody's?
Infiltration is the biggest thing, where we're monitoring the flow meter, seeing extra flow and going, okay, well, we know it's this area, but we don't know exactly.
Oh,
So
okay.
it kind of narrows it down, so we'll take a section, and we'll try to figure it out. We found a little smoke coming out of the ground in one little area, and it gives you knowledge on the system.
Interesting.
Smoke testing activities are scheduled 3 times annually and are performed in areas with high infiltration rates determined by using the sewer flow monitoring system. Collection system goals. The number 1 goal of the department is to meet or exceed the guidelines that have been set with the implementation of the state's waste discharge requirements, aka WDR. Limits the spills released and reduce the environmental impact to 0. Budget permitting, repair or replace enhanced maintenance areas, also known as EMAs for short. Continue the growth and knowledge of the department. Questions?
Any other questions?
I've got one.
Director Elkhart.
Yeah, my own ignorance, but for this district, does the sewer customer, what's their ownership of the lateral? Does it go all the way out to the main?
That's a good question. The policy of the district ordinance 65, it calls it from the property line to the main is the property owner's responsibility.
Okay.
The physical connection, i.e. the Y, the pipe comes up and off, that's ours. And that's pretty much a standard statewide. You've heard over the years, it's been, they tried to change it to where the public agency would be responsible for the piece in the street. So the way we've handled it, whenever there's a plug in a lateral, the homeowner would get a private plumber. They come in, they snake it, and invariably, they always say they use just enough snake to show that it came to our lateral and our lateral's big. So that some of the equipment that we have, what we'll do is we'll go out, the first thing we do is we check our main, and we put the camera in to make sure it's flowing.
And look at the lateral?
We look at the lateral turn, and then we actually have a small camera we can run up the lateral.
That was my other question.
Yeah, so we did purchase that. If it turns out it's just plugged, It's the contract, it's the homeowner's responsibility to unplug it and clean it. We usually stand by to catch the tennis balls and the stuff that come out when they do clean it. If it turns out the lateral is broken in the street, out of no responsibility of the homeowner, STG&E came by, we came by, something happened in the street and it just broke, okay, we will come in as the district and fix it for them. But if it's broken because their tree is right there and the roots have gone in and cracked it and broken it, it's their responsibility. Yeah. So it's one of those things we do on a case-by-case basis to see how it works out. We get those maybe twice a year at the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
Director Hernandez.
The carbon that you use for the odor, the scrubber that you showed us, what kind of material is that? Whatever that eats the odors or whatever. how to keep it.
Carbon scrubber?
Yeah, it's just it's a rock form carbon that absorbs the odors, and it just,
The reason I ask is we have the same thing going on in Encina, and they're having to redo
Same stuff. Same stuff.
55,000 pounds of the material.
Much bigger scrubber.
Yeah, and they got coconut shells,
Yeah, yeah.
and I didn't know.
it varies, there's different types of methods as far as absorbing it, and different types of carbons. I think the carbon we use is Darko, and it's a pretty good product, and it works pretty good.
All right, well, thank you. Did you have-
Yeah, I just, no, I was gonna say
Thank you, Patrick.
excellent, very well done.
Thank you all for
Learned a
staying
lot.
late, appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
I hope that's reflected in your paycheck.
It will be. It will be. Do you want to keep rolling? You want to take a quick one for you
Does anybody
guys?
need a break?
I-
I
Or
can
do you want to roll on?
You want one?
I'd like a quick break.
Okay, we'll take 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, good.
All matters listed under the consent calendar will be voted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or a member of the public requests that a particular item or items be removed from the consent calendar, in which case it will be considered separately under action items. Is
Move to
there a
approve.
motion? I hear
I second with a question.
There's a motion and a second. Let's have your question, sir.
Under A, the Finance and Investment Committee meeting, let's see if I can get to that. And I don't know how to get to it.
I have a printed copy of the agenda if you need it.
It's page 5.
Starts on page 5.
Right, I'm trying to get to the actual minutes of the meeting.
Yeah,
It's on page 5.
On page 5. On page 4, there's page 5. Thank you. Okay, under, okay. I was concerned the board does not receive reports or PowerPoint presentations in advance of board meetings. He requested going forward, the information which is necessary to the board to make a policy decision be provided to the board at least 48 hours prior to the meeting so that they have adequate time to review the information in detail. If this is not possible, the agenda item should be tabled for the next board meeting. He also requested to receive hard copies of the PowerPoint presentation. We need to make this a policy, we need to put it on this agenda, correct? Still not a policy, just because we brought up in a meeting, doesn't make it a policy.
What? The PowerPoint?
I want to make it a policy that unless we have the information 48 hours prior to, unless we receive all pertinent information 40 hours prior to, it moves to the following agenda.
Then I would say you would put that, if you want to do it as a policy, then you need to have a request that it be brought back as a policy question, and we'd have to modify the business of the board.
Okay, and that's what I asked for here, but I said, well, we didn't do that. But yeah, I would like to, because it just doesn't make sense that we show up and sit down and we're past 20 pages to make a policy decision. Only a policy decision.
Only on policy. Understand?
Yeah. But, so I'd like to bring that back, that on all policy decisions, we received all information
Sure.
48 hours prior to, and/or it goes on the next.
We'll add it to the next agenda and modify the business of the board.
If that makes sense to anybody.
Yeah, similar to item 2.4 when we met as a finance committee.
Yeah.
We discussed it and had it come back for full consideration. Oh, you want something like that? More formal?
You know, for instance, at the last meeting we had, we were past the PowerPoint when we got here. And it's like, well, we didn't have time to go over it, look at it, do anything but say, okay, and take out the rubber stamp. So it was like, we'd like to have policy decisions at least 40 hours ahead of time.
Yeah. Agree.
To include PowerPoint presentations. That's all.
So we'll be bringing that back to discuss on the next agenda, is what
Yeah.
you're saying?
That's why I'd like.
That's what I meant, was
Yeah,
similar,
because
similar
the
to
committee
how.
can just, the committee can just bring things to the board's attention that they talk about. The board has to give direction and
That's what I
modify
meant.
something.
Right.
If you recall from our last meeting, we had an update from the finance committee, and then out of that discussion tonight, later on tonight, we're gonna discuss and fully consider a potential new purchasing policy.
Right, so I'm
So,
just.
so it sounds like he wants to do the same thing, but with, I'm not sure what part of the policy that would be, but whatever.
They're
it
both in the
is.
same policy, so at the end, when you have future items to be brought forward, that's when you'll ask it to be brought forward.
Okay, I just brought it back because it was in the minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, we talked about.
Yeah, you just got it before item 6.
And I have a question on
Thank
that.
you.
And I just now noticed this actually, on page 7, item 1.1 in the minutes from last meeting, right under the warrant list at the bottom, it says, requested clarification on the warrant list with respect to payments made to Jeffrey Cowell and the Boys and Girls Club. I thought that was to the Kiwanis breakfast. No? Was it Boys and Girls Club?
No, it was, no, so I asked about the Kiwanis.
The
Under
meeting
the-
before.
A few meetings, yeah, two,
Oh,
three
This
meetings.
that
was,
just
the Boys
stuck in
and
my
Girls
head when I saw
Club
that.
was we paid for their.
Pancakes with same.
The placemat.
The placemat,
Sorry,
thank you.
thank you for the clarification.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Okay, Chris, we'll go to 2.1 for a drought update.
We're trying to get through all the action items quickly.
I will do that. So thank
is
you,
that a hint?
President. So now, we've been in drought 2 since August of 2014. Some interesting notes to point out was the National Weather Service noted that last month, February, in San Diego County was the warmest one on record since way back in 1875 when they started keeping track of that. Some good news is March is looking good. I think Maureen Stapleton mentioned that. 46 of the largest reservoirs in California collectively added 391 billion gallons of water during storms in the early month of March. And the graphic that's in your packet on page 33 is already old because it was part of the packet that was submitted. But I read either yesterday or today that Shasta itself was at like 103% of normal now. So, you know, there's some good news, at least on the storms in Northern California.
And if I could interrupt, I told them to go fast, you keep hearing 100 or 90% of normal for this time. Keep in mind, that might be still 50% empty. But it's 103% of the 50% empty. So it's not, people have gotten those numbers confused, saying, no, we're at 140% of storage. No, you're 140% of 33%. That's.
Thank you, General Manager Lamb. The data on your next page on graph 1, you can see that the production is for 2013, 2015, and 2016 is kind of the way the state wants to see it. So we kind of ignore 2014. It decreased 7.9% from February of 2015, but increased 11.6% from February of 2013. So it was a warm month, and it did show within some of our numbers. Good news on the next slide is that the GPCD figure, it popped up for February, but it was still less than it was a year ago. It was at, 81 a year ago, and this month it was 78.4. Our goal to get 24% on graph number 3 on page 36, you can see it did dip down a little. We were at 28%, dropped to 26. But we're going to get that new line because we did submit the information to get that reduction for the desal plant. And so from 24%, where our goal now is going to be 16%. So that's really good news for us. So that makes a big difference that we have the desal water. A couple things General Manager Lamb asked me to also follow up on you with was we did get those awards, District of Distinction and District Transparency Award, and we can have those given either us traveling or having them come here at one of their meetings, and I would like to get that scheduled and figure out if there's a specific time or date that serves the board's pleasure that we could get those awards. Excited to get them.
Absolutely. Director Martin?
I would probably just suggest they do it the next dinner.
I don't know if that was one of the events.
That wasn't one of the events they offered us.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
There were
we
bigger
have.
events.
We have the safety conference in Newport Beach. I'm not sure too many of us will be going to the safety conference. Special legislative days in SAC. General managers summit if you guys want to go to that. The Academy in Napa, and then the conference isn't until October. I don't think the next CSDA dinner's for 3 months. They're quarterly. So,
Do they come here?
yeah,
They can come here too, that's the other option.
I gotta remember, don't use my right arm. They will come here and do the presentation. So I know Director Snell is gonna be gone on the 6th of next month. So we figured if you guys, if your pleasure, we just move it to the 20th and just have them plan and do the presentation here. We'll actually get a press release out ahead of time for it, but the actual award would be given to the board on the 20th, if that works for you guys.
Yeah, sooner the better.
They can come here and,
It would be sooner than the next dinner. Whatever you guys want.
Sounds good to me.
and depending, I don't know if this is the appropriate spot to talk about this, but, depending on how heavy the agenda is for April, if we need to, if there's important things like this and others on there, we could have our meeting on the 13th instead of 6th, right? So we
Sure.
still have 2 meetings,
Yeah.
but one closer,
Yeah.
in the 20th?
So, yeah, whatever your pleasure is. And we'll make sure, because you're missing, we won't bring any policy issues forward.
Any other consensus? Does everybody agree that have them come to us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I would request that we have someone take a picture of it.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be a professional photographer, but someone knows how to take a flash picture with the group setting.
Somebody from your team, maybe?
We can get it done.
I had a question, is it, you know, Maureen, during her presentation, she was talking about the recent reduction of 8% of our mandated cuts. And I've kind of asked this before, but just, not that I'm advocating for, that we leave our states to drought conditions, but how much of a percentage would have to go away before we even can consider it?
Good timing to bring that up. Yesterday at the San Diego Water Authority man meeting, this was the topic of discussion, because again, you figure this has all happened since January. So we're struggling to keep up with the change. And because the state is not going to back out of this, the rumor that came out in one of the press releases today, they may completely abandon all mandatory curtailments in April. We don't know. The 30% on the state water project right now is projected to go to 50, which kind of takes everybody out of that playing field. And what we found was the current strategy that we have, the levels 1 through 4, they were based upon the water authority being in charge of their own supplies. So that's why we all have that standard thing. Well, what we've come up with, and over the next 3 months, the water authority is pulling a team together. What they may do is, we're thinking we're all gonna get rid of those policy, and the water authority is gonna back out of anything that we would follow as a model policy. They're gonna solely look at supply for the region, and they're gonna tell you as the board, we've got 93% of our supply, and you at Vallecitos, because of this, we may be at 105. They're gonna leave how we choose to meet any reduction up to the individual agencies. So what you're bringing up is actually now coming into fruition, because the fact that the state decided to step in, and they invalidated every policy we got by their actions. So this will be coming to you guys. They're thinking the governor will have, remember, the water year is the end of March going into April, officially the end of March, but they think it's gonna carry over. They've got 14 days predicted of average to hotter weather across California. So those numbers you heard today, don't hold tight. They're thinking by April, the governor will give direction to the state board, Felicia Marcus. We're thinking by the end of April, they will have made a determination of where the long term is. And as Maureen said, give the county jurisdiction over their supply. Because, I mean, we're not even taking state water project right now. So why are they telling us to cut back? So that's coming. You guys will probably be looking at a new policy, I'm gonna say probably May or June. But exactly what you brought up is coming very quickly.
Exciting, I'm glad.
But I would predict that they're gonna have some kind of ordinance or something
Yeah.
that's gonna rescind the model ordinance.
Right.
But it'll be some sort of ordinance that everybody sort of had input on, so
Yeah.
you know, these things take a little time, so I suspect it'll just,
Yeah.
maybe a few months after that.
But what everybody, all the managers said, all the agencies, like ourselves, Vista, Carlsbad, we all need to have a semblance of order. Because what you have is one person on one street, they go around the corner, they've gotta cut back, we don't.
Yeah.
So we want some consistency, but still leave the direction of mandates up to the board for each agency. That's where it's headed back to.
Interesting. I like that, local control. So.
Yeah, that's what they wanna do, is give it back. They'll control the supply. You control how to use it.
Anything else, Chris? No. Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
Great job.
Sure.
Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thanks.
Enjoying the social media posts too. They're all very pretty and they're good.
And are you guys okay with us doing a press release ahead of you getting the stuff from CSDA?
The what?
We can wait. The award from CSDA for the transparency and the district of distinction, would you like us to do a press release now or wait till you actually are presented with it?
Personally, I'm eager to get it out, but I also think that we should accompany the press release with the photo.
Whatever you guys want.
Wait for the photo up.
You wanna wait?
Sure.
Okay,
Photo up and then I'm
There you
assuming you
go.
put it in splash.
so just hold tight. Well, that's what you wanna do, is put it in splash in the next edition going out. Okay, we'll wait. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chris. Okay, we're gonna move on to item 2.2.
James, take it away.
Yeah, before you start, I had potential conflict of interest due to my employment arrangement with Kennedy Jenks Consultants, so I'm gonna go ahead and recuse myself from participating in this item, and I'll physically leave the room.
Yeah, we'll come get you.
Okay. Thanks.
Hi, James.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want him influencing us.
I didn't know that our enhanced maintenance areas were called EMAs.
Yeah, I thought it was enemies, I thought.
Thank you, President, members of the board. This is for the engineering services contract for the chlorine contact tanks expansion project. So at Metalark, we have the potential, according to a study that we did about a year and a half ago, to expand the plant to 6.5 million gallons per day. Currently, the bottlenecking system is chlorine contact tanks, which are at 5 million gallons. As the board's aware, when you do whether it's a water resource job or a treatment plant expansion, you're really looking down into the future, 10 years or so. We're looking at the future of recycled water, water recycling, water reuse. Working with North County agencies, we were able to secure a grant for $90,000 for planning and design of future water resource expansion. So in this case, future recycled water resource expansion. So with that, we went forward and requested a scope from Kenny Jenks, which is one of our as-needed consultants, for $119,100 to do a preliminary design report to look at the options that we could have to expand that chlorine contact tank, which is part of the original plant from 1964?
No,
62?
1958.
58. And that portion has not been touched or expanded. To expand it to about 6.5 million gallons, looking at different technologies, which includes our standard chlorine contacts, possibly UV sterilization, possibly other technologies that are out there. And with that, do a 30% design. There's a little design component because that was required to meet the grant criteria. So with that, unless there's any questions, request board authorization of Kenny Jenks contract for $119,100.
Director Martin?
I've got one question, maybe it's for Tom. Tom, will this completely be funded by pass-through to the ultimate customers?
This would be capital, so yes, this would not be recovered by, or reclaimed. It would be recovered through reserves, which are ultimately covered by customers. But the grant money is gonna kind of wipe out a lot of it.
My question is, do Olive and Hynum and both of our users paying for this, or are our ratepayers paying for it?
The user that we sell it to.
Well, our ratepayers will be paying for this, yeah.
Our ratepayers pay for
Yeah,
it?
it's a, even if it's, whether it's primary or secondary, if it's a capital component, long-term recovery for capital component.
No, let me back up. No, this is a similar, it's tertiary, so this is cost of water to whoever we sell it to. It's a capital component of that. So
Okay.
like the Carlsbad and the Liebenhain deals, we had the capital component in it originally, not replacement, but upfront and maintenance of it. So if we build this as part of the big long-term wherever we're headed, whoever is buying the water is gonna pay for it as part of the cost.
Okay,
Yeah. So we're not gonna put this on the ratepayer's back if we build it.
that's my question. Is the ratepayer paying or is Carlsbad and Liebenheim the beneficiaries?
Whoever the customer is that may use it.
Yeah, we're not gonna pursue building until we have a customer that.
Yeah.
is going-
This is part of the
Oh, I'm sorry.
long-term. where-
You're talking about the actual, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
thought you were
that's
talking
why I
about
had
the
to
study.
step in. He
I
just
thought you
had the
were talking
wrong
about the study.
concept, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is down the road, if we decide to go this route, we're not gonna build this. This is just part of the planning for the steps where we're going.
And does Meadowlark, is that fully funded now?
Mhm.
Including bonding payments we're making? Is all of that being paid for by Carlsbad and Liebenheim? Or is
Yes.
any of it on our ratepayers?
No,
Title-
contractually, it's all covered by them.
Yep, they pay 100%.
So whatever it costs for employees, equipment, the O&M, everything, we gain that money back?
Anything that's tertiary level, yes. Because the regular ratepayer has to pay up to secondary. So the cost, part of the insurance, part of the power, part of the,
We actually
anything
have a
that's.
true up every
Yeah.
year for audited based on our audited financials, we true up and make sure it's all.
So your ratepayers are not
And
subsidizing.
when we true up, that's how we come up with the numbers that we charge.
Mhm.
Yeah, well,
So
they
of course,
pay the
Carlsbad
budgeted
and
numbers throughout the
Liebenheim
year.
likes that.
Yeah, and then there's a true up adjustment.
Thank you.
Director Hernandez.
A couple of questions. One, is this the largest expansion that we can accommodate at Meadowlark? This from 5 to 6.5?
Without doing some major reconstruction, the answer is yes. We show that we get up to about 8 MGD, but that's completely removing some of the existing facilities that we just got completed in 2010 and rebuilding some structures. Right now, we can't get the sewer there. To get beyond 6.5 number is basically a planning number, which we feel that sometime in the future, we'll be able to get that sewer there, and obviously we'll also have to get the customers for it too.
So, 8 point whatever?
8 MGD was the ultimate number
Ultimate.
of what it could probably handle. But that included
Right.
major reconstruction. 6.5 was with the existing infrastructure in place. Obviously, the CCTs being the bottleneck, it was the only thing that could not handle the 6.5.
And I'm just projecting years and years ahead that, if we, 8.5, God knows when, whenever, that's the max,
Yes.
unless we
It's a
go
postage stamp.
5
You
stories.
see those two big round things
Yeah,
in the picture?
yeah.
Those are the roughing tanks, when you guys have been out there, those two big up around. Right now, those are a secondary treatment, it's full of media, as the sewage goes through, it treats it. We believe we could take those out, reconstruct it into flow equalization, build some other parts around it, and actually get up to 8. But the trick is still the chlorine contact tanks. But to get, we're 12 million?
No, 18.9 million
So-
if you wanted to get to 8 MGD.
The numbers go up proportionally. That's why there's a lot of pieces where I said we're trying to pull stuff around. There's a
Okay.
lot of pieces, but this is one of the pieces of the puzzle.
And then the other question I had, which we were talking about at the conference, so in 1950, what did you say, 8?
58?
So why did they build the thing in 1958?
Okay. Again, history, because I'm only gonna be here for a few more weeks.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I'm writing this
So,
down.
so the district was formed in 55, that was for
Yeah.
water purposes. Okay, they came in and they knew that they had to get into sewer, so 58 was our first general obligation bond that was issued. So they built, literally what James has circled right there, it's not circled, square, outlined, outlined. To the right of it, you'll see a white building. There used to be another building right next to it, which was kind of the operations building. So the original facilities that were built was San Marcos Boulevard Pump Station, the 8-inch force main that went all the way down to the treatment plant, down Rancho Santa Fe. They treated to what we call taking the chunks out, which is not even advanced, it's basic primary. It went through filters, it went through some media, then the hills right behind it, and where all of La Costa is built, La Costa, not Meadow Ridge, but all the subdivisions out there. Same thing that
Cheap fertilizer.
the dairy
Yeah.
would do. So that's what they did. That's why those hills are really well grown. In the early 1960s, the state came in, 65-ish, the state came in and said you can no longer land apply. So that's when we, at Vallecitos, joined Encina, which used to be just Carlsbad and Vista. So when that happened, we built our first land outfall from treatment plant down Rancho Santa Fe Road through what is now Bresci Ranch and Korea Ranch and all that. We hit El Camino Real. And on the other side of El Camino Real, the county of San Diego, which is Buena, which you guys know as Buena and Vista, because they have 4 boats at Encina. Okay, they had their original pipe that went from there into Encina. We connected right there at literally El Camino Real. In 1982, we were told by Vista they needed the capacity to get out of our pipe. So in 86 was when we built our own outfall. So that's how it all got built. But that was actually the training ground for all of San Diego for wastewater treatment operators for many years. Was that plant. So, but that's all they used to do. They ran it through, very basic process, filter, screen, ran the pipe.
And so the reclaiming portion was later on, after the treatment requirements became more extensive?
Yeah, so in 68 we joined Encina. In 1978, give or take, I was in high school. Mike wasn't yet. Encina went into a moratorium. So between phase 2 and phase 3, Encina was in a moratorium. You may recall, if you guys ever knew Sam Marr, Stanley Marr. Okay, so Sam was our rep to Encina. They wanted to go to a different level of treatment. We didn't want to go to secondary. We thought it wasn't needed yet. Hence, moratorium came into place. So La Costa was building all of that area out there. This goes back to the question of why we're replacing that pipe that corroded and failed so often. Okay, so in the early 80s, we entered into an agreement with Dan Corporation. They would pay to expand the treatment plant. Starting 1978, was finished in 81. They got credit for 400 sewer permits. They had to build Marr Reservoir, and they had to build the fail-safe in the sledge line. That's the one where it was a developer-driven project that got done and handed to us, which we just replaced. You accepted, I think, last board meeting. So that's the history. So Meadowlark got reestablished in 81. Our first customer was the city of Carlsbad in 91. And that was to La Costa. They didn't have any connections. We put a meter on the fail-safe at the end of the La Costa Golf Course, the back 9, which is furthest north. And they pulled water, and the ponds in La Costa were all reclaimed water for 12, 15 years. And then, so that's the evolution. We came in ahead of time. We rebuilt Meadowlark, went from 2.5-ish to 5.5, and sell all the water to Carlsbad leaving. So that's the rough history of how we got here.
Okay.
So the cost used to have an odor,
No, they loved it.
really?
Yeah, they loved it because reclaimed water, Ed will be coming back to you probably next board meeting or the one after. Reclaimed water is very high in nutrients. It doesn't stink. It doesn't stink. It might be musty, but it's chlorinated, but it's super high in nutrients. They didn't have to fertilize.
Yeah.
They didn't have to pay any fertilizer for the golf course. They loved it. Occasional tomato and cucumber grew on the golf course, but, you know, that's just an added feature.
Yeah.
Enhancements.
Yeah, it's an enhancement.
Yeah, just one quick question, a little bit off topic, but does the district own the surrounding property around here?
No.
No, the property line is shown in black.
Okay.
You see that?
So, is this, I know this down here to the, it would be southeast maybe? I know this is a kind of like a nice little goalie or something, if for lack of a better way to put it, but is that permanent open space? What is it?
San Marcos Creek.
Is this the creek?
That's San Marcos Creek right
And it's
there.
Center for
Oh,
Natural
okay.
Lands
Yeah.
Management is the conservancy that manages it.
In the piece on the northeast,
Yeah.
kind of the finger that sticks up there.
Yeah, so that one's a little bit more flat.
That's an archaeological site. Off limits,
What time?
archaeological stuff.
Okay.
All I know is when we did our EIR, we had to do, the outreach for everything else, and they were adamant. Our fence line, do not cross it.
Wow.
Temporary, no, it was just adamant, no, you don't get to go in there. So what is actually in there, I don't know, but it was sacrosanct. And then the other side of the San Marcos Creek, it looks fairly, but it's pretty steep. It's probably a 30% slope up to those houses up there. There's a great waterfall and a pond if you go out the canyon. Go for a hike down there,
Yeah,
really pretty.
That's Box Canyon.
Yeah, Box Canyon,
Oh, is that what it is?
Kim just did that.
yeah.
Yeah. Three Sisters, is that what they call it?
Well, Three Sisters is, that's coming down to Ramona, isn't it?
Yeah, that one's.
I think that Three Sisters
Oh.
out of Ramona.
Oh, I thought
This
this
is
one
Box
here.
Canyon.
This is
Oh.
Box Canyon.
But that's where they have the pools where the kids go.
Yeah.
Oh, do they know what's in the pool?
Huh?
Do they know what's in the pool? The history? I'll entertain a motion if there's no more
Move to
questions.
approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Very good.
Good job.
And we have Jason up for the next one.
Well, Director Albarth comes up, we'll move on to 2.3, construction contract award for Knoll Road sewer line replacement project.
Good evening,
Howdy, howdy.
President Snow and fellow board members. So I'm here to discuss the construction contract award for this project, the Knoll Road Sewer Replacement Project. Just, if you look at the graphic, just to orientate yourself where this is, the replacement is a section of sewer line that begins at a manhole at the intersection of San Marcos Boulevard. It runs up Knoll Road to that next light. That's the entrance to Home Depot on the right. There's a gas station and Starbucks to the left. So it's that section that we're going to replace. As Patrick and our collection department presented to you earlier, we typically do routine camera inspection of our sewer lines. Inspection of this particular line found that there were vertical deflections, what we call sags or bellies in the line. Those deficiencies reduce the carrying capacity of the line, it increases the maintenance for our collections department, so it's determined that this line needs to be replaced. So, and just so, as you can see, there's going to be some traffic impacts at this location, as you would imagine. The traffic control plans were developed and vetted through not only the city of San Marcos, but also Caltrans, because it does affect their offering. So a bid package was put together. We received bids a few weeks ago. The lowest responsive bidder is the Charles King Company for $157,280. That package was reviewed by staff and legal. Staff will be performing the inspection and the construction management. If you look at the physical impact, we are right on budget. And staff would ask that the board award the construction contract to Charles King in the amount of $157,280, subject to the conditions of the contract, and I will answer any questions you have.
Director Evans.
Yes, it's, I think it's a great thing we need to do, but how long will this take? Time-wise, traffic confusion and,
Traffic confusion.
well, that will never go away, so I guess I should.
Yeah, just so you know, all the construction in San Marcos Boulevard will be performed at night.
Mhm.
The work in Knoll Road can be performed in the day, however, it's restricted hours 9 to 3. We haven't actually begun negotiating with the contractor, but I would suspect that they may want to do the whole thing at night, since they already have to perform a good chunk of it at night. You know, they're already logistically mobilized that way, but we'll see.
And the
2
length
weeks?
of time we're anticipating?
Max.
2 weeks?
Max.
Oh,
It's
wow.
only 300 feet of pipe.
Yeah.
The last section that we replaced last fiscal year was about 300 feet. It was done in 3 days,
Oh,
but it was a lot less traffic.
that's, well, that's still, that
So
surprises
I would
me.
expect 2 weeks max.
All right, thank you, Jason.
Director Martin.
Question. Because of its high traffic, and thank you, it's a good question, because of the high traffic area, why aren't we requiring it to be done at night on the contract?
The city allowed us to work during the day. It's always more advantageous for a contractor to work during the day from a safety standpoint. Also, there's certain materials like asphalt that are just easier to get during the day. Plants don't open during the evening, except for very, usually Caltrans projects are usually the only projects will get a asphalt plant open during the day. So there's some logistical reasons why we prefer not doing work in the night. And mainly because it's a city, sort of allowed us to do it during the day.
They allowed you, but they would have preferred you to do it at night.
No, they didn't
That's
really have a preference.
it's a relatively new road. 20 years old?
I don't know, this line
Or
was put in
historical, though.
'86, so it's fairly old. I know they've done several overlays, I can tell from just being out there, they've done a few overlays on the road. But when we're done, we'll be doing a slurry seal over our patch and extending that out, probably a few lanes.
It's a $150,000 contract, so it's not that big a job.
No, it's fairly
That's
small.
why I'm trying to figure out 3 weeks. It
Is it two?
seems they couldn't have personnel there for 3 weeks and afford to pay them and make a profit for 3 weeks worth of work.
It's 2 weeks.
Well, the
Seems
traffic
like more of a
control.
3-day project to me, but I don't know.
And they may be done in 3 to 5 days.
Yeah,
Could very well be.
I can tell you the last section job that we had, that was about 300 feet, was done in about 3 days. The contract was about $63,000. So, but this has, again, substantially more traffic control. For instance, the section that they have to do at night, they actually have to close the westbound off-ramp. Here you see, they're also gonna have to close the westbound on-ramp at Twin Oaks. And that's a requirement from Caltrans. So there's, and again, that drives that cost up.
There's a
But
lot.
you're right, if they get it done in 3 days, yeah, they're gonna be making a heck of a profit.
And there's a lot of pipes in San Marcos Boulevard, they gotta dig under and through and around, because remember, the sewer's always the lowest thing down. So everything above it, is the 16 on that side of the road?
The gas?
Yeah.
They have to cross it, yes.
Yeah, so you got the 16-inch high-pressure gas main that feeds all of San Diego County. So again, we have to have San Diego, SDG&E emergency trucks, people stand by, and you get near that thing, I mean, it's like something happened to San Onofre.
Yeah, there's also a significant bypass, to do the replacement, they've got to bypass that existing flow, which again, may encourage the contractor to go at night. We're gonna encourage them doing it at night for that reason, not only traffic, but also for the bypass. Because they've got, I think, 3 businesses that need to be reconnected through this stretch.
Thank you. How long of a period will the on and off ramps be down? Is it for days or just hours at a time?
It'll be for the duration of the work for that evening, which I believe is 9 PM to 5 AM, I believe. And again, it's only required for the work in San Marcos Boulevard. I would think 2 days is more than reasonable for them to get out of that section where they would require the ramps to be closed.
I'm ready to move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion?
Second.
Second, any other discussion? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
We won't have any of our trucks out there, right, with our Google on this side, so.
We will be performing inspection.
We'll put
yes.
Carl's dad out there.
I'll
just
to,
to-
Sure,
park
that
it.
truck is not painted yet.
All right.
No
Thank
one
you.
knows.
Moving on to item 2.4, review of potential new purchasing policy. Dennis?
I wasn't there, so I'm gonna turn this over to Tom to address the
Thank
topic.
you. Yeah, this was brought up at our last finance and investment committee meeting. And what we looked at some disbursements that on an annual basis rose over $100,000. And the committee consensus was a potential amendment, if you will, to our existing purchasing policy to address when a vendor exceeds $100,000 in a year of disbursements, to do a little more work on possibly rebidding, if it's of that nature, if it's contractual nature, to rebid that contract. And it's something we do already, but this would be to formalize, memorialize that process that we do.
So if it's the board's pleasure to move forward, that what we would do, would you bring it back to the next board
You
meeting
just
with the
need like
revised
kind of a
ordinance?
consensus?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll start us off since I'm the one that asked for the finance committee to review that policy. I thought, there wasn't a policy in the agenda. The
No,
actual
not
policy,
yet,
okay.
if it's the consensus.
But no,
what
but
we-
the current policy.
Oh, no, sorry, we did not
Oh,
include
no,
it.
we don't have.
Okay. My personal opinion, having reviewed that both individually and as part of the finance committee, that the policy was very well written, and it had a lot of good language in there that talked about how we go out to bid and how we put out an RFP, and et cetera. But what I felt was missing was some language of kind of ensuring that process takes place, especially on the bigger contracts, and what, in my mind, $100,000 and above, that we do it on a fairly regular basis. And the only thing I would add that we talked about during the finance meeting, however, wasn't mentioned in here, is in addition to putting that language into that policy, requiring us to go out to bid as it outlines here, at least every 5 years on contracts, but I'd like to go ahead and kind of get us caught up to speed. This doesn't necessarily have to be language in the policy, but just, I think, if we're gonna enact this, we should, over the next, I know it's not gonna happen overnight, but over the next 12, 18 months, let's get everybody who meets that criteria through the process and have those bidding process as it's practical as it can be. So
Yeah, see when
I
if
think
there's contracts, we'll see when they're up, then we'll just.
And when we were in the finance committee, I think we reviewed the list of the contracts that potentially would qualify for that, and it wasn't too many. And a lot of, another thing that was not mentioned in here too is, I'll just for the sake of the rest of the board, is that a lot of our vendors are sole source. I mean, we buy water from the, water authority. You get it where you get it from, but, so they, obviously they would be precluded from this, any vendor that was, would qualify as a sole source vendor. So, and with that, I'll either entertain a motion, or is there any more questions?
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. We just,
All in favor?
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Okay,
opposed? Okay,
bring it back
motion
to next
passes
board meeting.
unanimously. Good. Moving on to item 2.5, San Marcos Boys and Girls Club Annual Auction. Want me just to talk about it? So I also asked that this be put on the agenda, and primarily, as you all know, the auction is coming up. As a district and with board approval, we reviewed this last year and ultimately voted to get a table and support the, not only the auction, but also really just apply this as part of our public outreach efforts that we've been laser focused on over the last 2 years. I don't personally have strong feelings about it. I'm going to attend the event either way, but I did want to put this on here because it was just, not even 12 months ago that we did it. We did approve this, so I figured we at least should consider it again tonight and take action on it one way or the other. So I'll open up with discussion and might chime in some more as we progress here. But Director Martin.
Last year, using it as part of our outreach, we spend a lot of money outreaching to the school system, and we actually do outreach to the Boys and Girls Club. I know Lisa does some classes over there.
Yeah, they cooperate with them, just.
And I think as an outreach, what I felt last year was that we didn't have quite the participation that I had hoped for, of people that were going to go to the table that would actually be talking to people about water business. Yeah, we show we're good guys, but unless we get a fuller table, does that make sense? In other words, I know we can't mandate this, but unless, for instance, the GM wanted to go, the assistant GM, council, top managers, unless they wanted to go, because that would, again, enhance our ability to talk to people, people get to know each other. It would be more of an outreach. We didn't have that level of, and the full board, or whoever wants to go on the board. We can't mandate it, but if it was gonna be used as that, I could see it as outreach. But if we're not gonna have people show up and the table's not gonna be full, then I feel a little bit odd about doing it. But that's my feelings on it, so what's everybody else's?
Well, it seems like last year when we went, they didn't even have the tables. It was more of a buffet kind of thing. We didn't have a sit-down.
No, it's always a sit down.
At the last Boys and Girls Club?
Yeah, at the annual auction. Yeah, and it wasn't
went.
buffet. No, it was served.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, I sort of agree with both of you. I feel like we could make a better outreach, get a bang for our buck if we were to take the same amount of money. I had been thinking about, and I did not realize Lisa did things with the Boys and Girls Club, but even if we were to take some of that same amount of money and fund like a splash mobile that came specifically to the Boys and Girls Club, and they all had things about water, or they could bring their parents to it, we're then doing outreach and education and making a difference. I just feel it's not
Did you get any feedback, Dennis, on why, because I mean, obviously 400 plus folks throughout mostly San Marcos and maybe the surrounding area, they pay literally $150 a head, and the thing sells out in, real quickly. I mean, it's hard to believe that, Vallecitos Water District employees and staff are the only folks in North County that don't want to go to this. Is there any reason why? Is it a water people thing?
It's never been a function the district goes to. Staff, again, like Director Martin says, I'm not gonna mandate them to go to it. Ed and most of his people go to things like AWWA and things that are more technically based. The wastewater guys go to CSDA and CWA. CEWA. It's not something they do as far as me. It's not something that I attend. I attend quite a few things already. And even this time coming up, I mean, literally 7 days after this is done, I'm literally gone. So, I don't plan on attending this year. It's never been on the water district's radar as a function of getting the word out.
Well, what about so I see this completely as public outreach.
Sure.
So what about our public outreach team?
Oh, that's why I say, what we can do is if we want to do that, that would be part of what we would do. I don't know how the whole thing functions, if they have an area that you can put a table out for, I don't know
No,
if
it's
they.
not that kind of event.
I don't know if they do that,
It's
so
it's a social gathering.
So the best you'd
with
have would
members
be
of the
maybe
public.
Chris there talking and
Well, you-
schmoozing with people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the cost of a table is not exactly what it says here, because if I recall from what we did last year, if spouses came, we would pay the district for them.
Sure.
So we would have to minus that amount
Right.
from the cost of the table, so it's a little, depending on the number of spouses that come, it would be, upwards to a third less than what we think it might be. Director Hernandez.
Well, if you remember last year, I was fortunate enough to sit next to a ratepayer who was just enamored with our service department
Mhm.
because of the
Yeah, I remember you mentioned
circumstance,
that.
if you remember, out of town and all this. So in that regard, it was worth every penny of it. I think what President Snell has suggested is, if we want our wives to come, let them pay. If some of the staff would love to come, I know we can fill the table.
Sure.
If we have enough time to talk about it. The question is, I guess, do we want to put
Yeah,
together?
I'll offer to the outreach staff again.
Okay. I think it'd be nice, and there's
What's your
400,
feeling?
there's 400 folks there. I would reckon 95% of them are in our service area. And it's similar to, I'm sure later on in May or June, we're gonna be at the street fair again, right? So I kinda see it kinda the same way, and.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that does fall in lines of outreach staff more so than general
Yeah.
staff.
And I don't wanna force anybody
No,
to
no,
go.
but-
I understand it's at night, but.
But like you say, we support other things that are weekends and evening things that they go to. That's part of what Chris and his staff are supposed to do. So I can reinforce that for Chris, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Director Martin.
Yeah, and just want to add the other side of that coin is, we used to also participate in the parade, which was an
Right.
exorbitant cost.
Big expense.
We had a lot of people working that.
Yeah.
Very little results. I mean, in every small town, you probably have 400 or 500 people, the same people that show up at everything. And it's good outreach, I believe, for us to be part of that, versus being missing PMIA. So, with that said, I'm looking at both sides of it and saying, yeah, if we get more participation, I think it's very well worthwhile, if that's possible.
Was that a motion?
May I?
That's something to say.
I don't know if you recall, a few years ago, the County of San Diego and the City of San Diego used to have a bunch of Charger box tickets in the, suites, and there was the Padres and everything. And the FPPC was sort of irritated over this, and so they promulgated a bunch of regulations with respect to ticket distribution policy. So I think it would be a good practice, since this is sort of where it hasn't been an issue very much at this point, but if that's the direction you'd like to go, which is certainly up to you and is appropriate, I'd like to be able to bring back a ticket distribution policy in accordance with the FPPC regulations, because I don't want to, we need to keep it in those, along those lines. And as you've recognized, that we've got policies in place that comply with that with respect to, you each get a free ticket, so to speak, but the spouse has to be paid for. And these are all things that came out of these regulations. But now I think it's appropriate to have a formal policy. We'll bring it back for your consideration, just.
Absolutely. Does that
Okay.
need to happen, Jeff, before we take action on this, or?
I don't think
Because I
so,
think
but
we're-
I'd like to bring it back in the next, next meeting or so.
We have time.
Yeah.
Well,
You can go ahead and move
what
on
is
this.
This is April 23rd.
Yeah, no, you can go ahead and move on this, and we'll make sure you have a policy in place so that it's,
for sure.
it meets the FPPC regs.
Keep it. I would just like to say that although I do think it's a part of outreach, I don't think it's a fair comparison to a street fair where people go and the whole process is they go to booths and they learn about health, or they learn about the community, or they learn about whatever. I think a fair is different than the Boys and Girls Club event. I think the Boys and Girls Club event is a very important event, but I see it as, in my opinion, I've been many times, it's a fundraiser specifically for the Boys and Girls Club. I feel like it's attended by a great many of the same people year in and year out. And would feel very uncomfortable making any of the staff feel obligated to go because we picked a table. So I will have a great difficulty supporting this, and I just feel we can spend our outreach in a better manner. My second question is, if this is approved, I know last year we sponsored the table, but we excluded a per diem. I would like to know what we're talking about per diem on this, because I certainly feel it's not worthy of a per diem either. So, just my concerns.
Well, I'll answer your question from me personally, is I would agree, I don't think this should be a per diem item either. This is just strictly about getting the district and our district leadership out in the public. The more we can, the better. And we've been focused on that since I've been around here on the board, so at least a couple, 2-3 years. So that's how I view it, but any other discussion, or I'm.
On that, I'd just like to answer, I don't think it's worthy of per diem. It's something the majority of us would go to in any case. It's just a question of whether we're wearing our Vallecitos badge or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna attend it no matter what, one way or the other.
Was that a motion, Director Martin? Did you make a motion?
Move to approve
Second?
and have staff help us in seeing, if not obligate anybody, I wouldn't want to obligate staff to go, but make it available to them if they'd like to. Some of them might like to. They might get a kick out of it, they might not, I don't know. But a choice.
We will.
And then just to clarify, no per diem.
Right?
And you're talking about the $1,500 Scarecrow sponsorship?
Yes.
Okay. And if spouses are welcome to come, but they have to pay their own way.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, that's per policy
Okay.
already.
Is there a second of that?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion passes overwhelmingly 4-1. Okay, moving on.
Okay, where we at?
General manager.
Thank you. I'll try to get through these real quick. You do have the meeting coming up on the 24th, your special meeting,
Yeah.
to discuss the recruitment. So we'll be getting the agenda out on that shortly, and I'm sure there may be a little more talking in closed session about that. The part of what Ms. Stapleton spoke about today was the litigations. They're getting ready to file the litigation for this 16-17, 17-18 year, because they're doing the same rates. The fear of what we've always known was coming is we got the first shot of Metropolitan's proposed rates, just this past week. The trick is, they have a hearing coming up on rates, but they haven't issued a cost of service study, and they're not gonna do that for 2 weeks till after. So you can see where this cost of service study stuff can get you in trouble, or it can keep you out of trouble. But the bottom line is, yesterday, all the managers, they gave us the first blush Wow. They gave us the first blush of what this would look like, so John will be down, or was Wes, somebody was down for the finance officers, and they're just now starting the budget process. But what we asked the Water Authority to do was to arrange a group, committee, whatever you want to call it, gang of 500, with a bus or 2 buses, whatever is necessary. We are looking on April 12th, that if any of you want to go up and speak, but we're going to arrange, the Water Authority will arrange a bus for staff, board members, anybody out of the industry that's interested that wants to go up to Met and speak. So we don't want you just to go up there and sit in the audience, like I've already volunteered Tom, will go on our behalf, to go speak, but we're going to have talking points ahead of time we'll give you, but we're going to expect everybody that goes up to actually speak. So if you want to go on April 12th, all you need to do is let me know as part of this. We don't know if it'll, we've had upwards of 150 people go, 2 full bus loads. So I mean, it could be a big thing.
It's a Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday?
It's a
April
Tuesday.
12th is Tuesday.
Okay.
Tuesday.
And then meeting starts about 9.
Yeah,
right?
there would be, the current website lists the meeting between starting at 10 to 11, which means to get on a bus down here, you gotta be leaving probably at 7:30 or 8 to get up there through the traffic. It could go through the afternoon. They'll supply snacks in the morning and a box lunch on the way back. So if any of you are interested, just let Diane know, and then we'll start getting you more information as we go.
3 minutes?
What's that?
3 minutes?
You know, I'm not sure what Met's rules are, but they probably have a 3-minute limit on that.
Jim, you have 100 speakers.
Yeah, you'd be there all bloody day. And as Maureen said, they've never had a fixed raw water component. Treatment. They've never had a fixed treatment component. So they've always had purely commodity. Now they're going to a fix, and this goes back to what we always talk about is, if Met needs to collect $2 billion, they're gonna collect $2 billion. So if the Water Authority's lawsuit shifts $400 million, then the other 25 agencies pick up $400 million. As she said, the chair told them, nobody's gonna vote against themselves to move the rates.
Exactly.
So you're gonna have a whole bunch of people from San Diego. We're starting to garner some support from a couple of other agencies up there on this kind of stuff. But if you go, it's gonna be a long day.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I was thinking is, you know, she was talking about the lawsuits, 235 million, and if it does go through, Met only has one way to pay for that, right? And so are we gonna pay for our own lawsuit that we won?
Well, what
That's
you
basically what we do.
Yeah, what you'll have is, John doesn't have the information yet, and once we get a little more information, the Water Authority has to pull stuff out of the budgets from Met. So you have the 4 reps that are our reps on the Water Authority board, and you have 2 staff members from the Water Authority that have office in Met's building. They have their own office inside the building. So what they do is, we've got a preliminary where we've had to pull all this information out, and you gotta keep in mind, 235 million, whatever the number was, okay, well, that has to come out of their reserves. So right now, if they only have 273 million, what they have to do is pull that 235 out, now they're down to 40 million of reserves. So we might have a reserve policy that says we have to be at 250 million
You gotta
minimum.
increase rates to raise their.
It's a vicious loop. The money is gonna come from somewhere. And even if they shift 400 million,
I know where it's gonna come from.
Met's gonna shift how they collect it on transportation costs, fixed costs, treatment costs. So of the 400 million, there might be 100 million that comes back to us anyway. We don't know.
And this is what last time I was trying to explain, is that they had made $5 million of money in surplus, and they spent it on unbudgeted items, and most of it was turf replacement.
Yeah.
This
And
is Met?
threw
Yeah.
away, this was Met,
Yeah.
and basically gave away almost $400 million, $375 million on turf replacement, and their turf replacement rules, you didn't have to prove that it was even an area that had ever been sprinkled. You could have a natural meadow and choose to have it all done, and you didn't have to even show it had ever used water. You didn't have to give them receipts. You didn't have an inspection that it was done. So that's very interesting with their budget.
Yeah, the trick right now, what they're showing is they're over budgeting sales and under budgeting expenses. And then they take the difference between the two, and they get more from the sale. Well, let me put it this way, this is the conspiracy stuff talked about, I don't know if it's true or not. But, so that's part of what this will be, is because the changes that are being proposed right now is kind of the setup and the preamble into what's gonna happen because of the litigation. So,
So, and maybe a question for Jeff.
Mhm.
So the water authority is suing Met, and so thus far is successfully. Is there any legal precedent or legal ability to get that judgment awarded to where San Diego County can be excluded from, like, when they design their new rate structure, when they're putting that $235 million into their rate structure to bill back to us, is there any way we can fight it legally to be excluded from that? Because you know how they broke out the different individual, like how they built their rate, right?
Right.
Well, if there's a category, or if you can quantify, either legal fees or litigation, and, there's gotta be a certain percentage of that water, right, that are given to us, that's transport, that's water, that is litigation and legal fees, can we be excluded? Is there any way we can fight that and become
Yeah, I think
excluded from
so.
that?
I think so.
But it's another lawsuit.
No, but I mean, I think it is, I mean, you can't, there's a portion of that they're gonna try to
Yeah.
basically kick back to the water authority,
Yeah.
and I think that's gonna be problematic. I think they're gonna get some resistance.
Yeah.
that'll be the next suit.
And the judge that's hearing this seems to be, both have a very strong grasp and understanding of the issue.
Yeah, and I don't
It
know that
seems
they're
to be
gonna have
fairly
to file
reasonable,
another
too.
lawsuit. I think that's part of
That was
what
part of the
ultimately is gonna
litigation.
be resolved
Okay.
in the.
He already told them they can't keep doing what they're doing, but
Right.
they just did it again.
Well,
But
This
of
is a
course,
new-
it's our
this is
side
a
that
new
says it's
approach, though.
reasonable because we won. The other side's saying there's no talking
Well,
about.
He sounds completely reasonable.
You know, I can agree with you, Director Martin, but out of 4 years of lawsuits, there has not been a motion, a challenge, any item from this side of the table. The only portion that was not upheld by the judge, and he explained why, was the LRP, the rebate program. That's where, to go back 5 years, it was the North County 9 that was gonna build the DSAP. Okay, so we had local funds coming from Metropolitan at $250 to $275 an acre foot to reduce the cost. That's the way, that was how we could afford to build it. Well, when the lawsuit went in, they said, we're not gonna give you those funds anymore. Why not? Well, we put a note in here that if anybody does something that's contrary to us, we hold the funds from you. That's the only thing we've lost on, we being collectively, because nobody actually had built the project yet. In between that time, we built the desal. So that's part of the desal contract we have with the Water Authority, is once these lawsuits are done, the LRP gets put back in place, we will then go back after the cost per acre foot to bring our costs back down on the desal. But that's the only piece in the entire 4 years of litigation that's gone against the Water Authority. So I think they got a pretty good case.
if, I would just like to add also on the complications of what you talked about, Director Sinella. Earlier on, that was discussed about trying to make sure we didn't put in the money and then pay it back to ourselves. Well, at the time, and I do believe that it was decided it would take another lawsuit, the judge wasn't terribly open to that idea. But here's the interesting thing, we're their number one customer. So obviously, we're their biggest source of money. And when this was set up, it was legally set up, they were to set aside the money
in
for the
escrow.
lawsuit
Right.
in escrow. And they've never done that. They commingled it in reserves. And only until recently has it come out that there is no money set aside. And I was talking to you about they're actually thinking of taking out credit from a bank to put into reserves to pay credit card rates and go for another bond to replace, because they've never done, they
Yeah.
basically feel they're their own,
Yeah, they're gonna take out local loans through
Local
banks
loans
to replace reserves.
Yeah, I just think that
and
is.
it's an incredible, and if you had time to read all about, it's very crazy, but.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling
If you
just
wanna-
hearing you talk about it, Director Evans, and it's
But
infuriating.
and it's the way they've been doing business since
That is-
early
that's-
1900s.
If you
Doesn't
wanna go
make it
listen to it, let me know, and we'll ship you up there on a bus.
Read the book.
When I asked Maureen though, and maybe this is all to come, maybe they're trying to do things in good faith and, you know, playing nice right now, but I think there's a story that needs to be told to the public, the California public, about what's really going on here, and, you really just, I mean, if you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, to run you know, a public outreach campaign, not us, but, you know, the greater water community, I just think that we're missing an opportunity to put some public pressure on those that are doing the things that they're doing.
Yeah, and
So-
one thing that Maureen didn't mention here, and you guys would not be aware of, is she did mention that one day back in 2003, I think she said, where they finally unbundled and started changing rates. Okay, there was a lawsuit back then that took a little bit of time between Met and the Water Authority to settle. But at the end of that termination, that agreement, they had a 5-year cooling off period. There was an agreement in that period. So from about 2004-ish through 2009, 2010, it was agreed upon between the two agencies, no more litigation. The day after the agreement was expired, literally is when the Water Authority started going. So you might ask, like you say, Jim, they've been doing it forever. Well, once they changed the rate structure, it was pursued, but there was literally an agreement, 5 years, we both go to our corners.
Yeah.
Beyond that, like I said, if you want to go, just let Diane know and we'll make arrangements. They'll actually meet you in Escondido, so you don't have to go down to San Diego. You meet at the Escondido Water Authority office and they'll pick you up there. And then you've got the meeting on the 24th, and then anything else we'll hold for closed session.
Okay, Director Evans, anything else from the Water
No,
Authority?
I think we've covered it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll confine my report to closed session.
Oh, sorry, Jeff, thanks, good catch. Encina,
Yes, we had our capital committee meeting this morning, and we approved the RTO, which is regenerative
Regenerative.
thermal oxidizer. It's an odor and a pollutant reduction thing. And they're gonna take care of that. We are upgrading our SCADA. It's been in place since 1992. It's a $10 million project over a number of years, and we are going out to bid for a design-build portion to do the study for the first 30%. And that was pretty much the,
developer?
Yeah, the Policy and Finance Committee of Encina met on the 8th, and we considered a resolution amending the Human Resource Policy Manual and recommended that go to the board. And that was essentially pretty much routine updates. It hadn't been updated since 2013. And the other major item was consider establishment of an other post-employment benefits, or OPEB trust. And so that, we recommended that to the board as well.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, moving on to director's reports on travel and conferences. I'll just start to the left and work our way to the right. Director Evans, you have anything for us today?
Yes, I was at Cowoo yesterday, and it was a very excellent presentation by Professor Lee Brown on the now to be actually a real course at CSUSM. And I not only do I appreciate what they presented in the course, but I have to give great kudos, and they did, Professor Lee and Ken Weinberg and them gave a great amount of kudos to Tom and Dennis and the other three, Daryl Gentry, was it Brian Brady?
Kevin Hardy.
Kevin Hardy.
And
for
Mitch originally.
coming up with the idea. And it was very interesting in the presentation. He puts up these 4 faces, and the last one he put up was yours, Dennis, and he called you the witch. But he was saying that Dennis, and I thought this was I was real proud to hear that our district and that Dennis were the ones that really brought it forward, and it's doing really well, and they have a wonderful course set, and they're going to have a first portion called the core curriculum, or was it? The little, you could
Survey.
take a one part that didn't get into all the certification part and going for a master's. We get a nice overview of everything, so. It was very impressive and very well attended, so it was very nice. I'm glad I went.
Anything else? Anything else?
No, I was gonna say a little bit that I went to a Colorado River Board meeting, but I will save that for another meeting, I don't think.
Director Alter?
I just got back from attending the water reuse conference up in Santa Rosa. It's the first water reuse event that I've attended, and I found it very informative, very interesting. A lot of emphasis on water recycling, a lot more emphasis on IPR and DPR, indirect potable reuse and direct potable reuse. A lot of discussion from the National Water Research Institute expert on the timeline for when draft regulations are coming down for the DPR. And so that was pretty interesting. And I also found it interesting that less talk about conventional purple pipe style recycled projects. But what's interesting is a lot of in talking to people out there, a lot of the Northern California agencies are just now considering those types of projects. We're down here in Southern California, we've been doing those kind of projects for the last 25 or 30 years. So I think down here where the paradigm is shifting toward doing IPR and DPR, but they're just now getting to the conventional style purple pipe projects up there in the north. So.
Did they give you a handout on the timeline?
Yeah, there was some.
If you could get that to me, I'd
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah, so a very good conference.
The only thing I went to was the cow breakfast yesterday with Director Evans, and not to repeat her whole presentation, but it was Dr. Brown and about the certification program at CSUSM. And I'll just say I was very proud too. I really appreciate the leadership from staff and making that happen. I've talked about wanting to be leaders in the community as a district over and over again, and that's certainly a prime example of that. So thank you so much for your efforts on that.
You're welcome.
Director Martin.
I attended the 2016 Legislative Symposium, not to be confused with the one that Kevin's doing in April. Kevin's doing
Yeah,
the
that's
same-
the,
He's the president of.
Casa.
CASA.
Yeah,
Casa.
he's doing the same thing, so, it was interesting. It was one day in Sacramento, and they talked about 218, which I thought was very interesting. And they talked about the 218 changes, really, the city's looking for stormwater.
Yep.
They're looking to get money for stormwater. But, so it really doesn't affect it that much.
The only thing they're trying to get in there with that, with the 218, is predominantly getting support. Politically, if you get the League of California Cities and already behind it, it gives you a little more, and it gives the cities a way to finally get funding. The other key issue they're trying to get back into it is not a lifeline, but the
Well, yeah,
ability,
we talked about a lifeline.
but ability to allow for the
Yeah.
agency to actually determine and set that, because that got
So-
taken away.
Yeah, so for us, the lifeline side is something I'd be very.
That's what we're looking at it for.
And for the city, as you know, the city did it through other sources, and don't know how legal that was, and I think they stopped doing it, actually. Emerging water markets, lunch speaker was Assemblyman Anthony Rendon, and they also, on TV, I just remember, everything I saw was them opening the gates and letting all this water out of all three dams. So they were anticipating a lot more than they have, obviously.
Snowpack.
Yeah, but so they were letting a lot out, and everyone was talking about, all the water, they just letting it out.
Fish. The water's gotten real warm in all the creeks because it's been low flow, it's been real
Yeah.
shallow. So it's really been trashing the salmon, so they're releasing the water for the cold flow.
Yeah, and I saw that the Russian River at the night conference, that the water's really moving along there.
Yeah.
Which I think is very interesting. Outreach opportunity, I did go over and I spoke to one of Marie Waldron's people in the afternoon. In the business, we call them scribes, because if you don't talk to the person, then you're talking to one of the scribes that breaks down a bunch of notes and passes them to Marie. And the same thing with Joel Anderson. So I did spend a little bit of time doing that, so that was interesting. And I also went to water reuse, and I'm gonna bring up the same concern that I brought up to Maureen. If you listen to all the engineers, they're ready to go with reuse, even though there's no parameters for it, and they're hoping to have parameters at the end of this year. They're hoping to have parameters. But already they're talking, this is the part that really made me very nervous, There's one that we're gonna move to San Vicente Dam, which carries a lot of water in it to do that joint.
Dilution.
Yeah, and suddenly now, well, it's gonna save a few $1 million, put it in Miramar, let's put it in Miramar, it's not as big, but who cares? That's the way I felt that was coming down. It's like, really? I care, but, you know, but that's engineers. And I think the public's gonna look at it completely different than engineers do.
Yeah, you give us money, we can build anything.
Well, yeah. Well, the worst of that will be our problem, not the engineers.
Yeah, we built it.
So that was a very interesting conference, water use, but there were quite a few subjects covered, showing us LA's approach to using recycled water at concrete mixing, which I thought was very interesting, because we have someone here in town that does that, not with reuse, but with well water. I found the way it gets our prices, and just a whole bunch, but very interesting, very packed with, interesting talking to the people there, some of the other politicos, although there weren't many politicos, mostly engineers, but they have an interesting way of looking at things as well, so. Met a couple of guys from Padre Dam that were really nice, spent a little time with them, and, that's it. I didn't go to the, Aqua because I wasn't here. Kawa.
Hernandez.
I, too, I think I went to the same seminar that
We took away different
Director
things.
Martin heard,
We took away different
but I heard
things.
a completely different
Yeah.
thing, that what they have done is they are sending this to Miramar with additional chemical cleaning to reduce the timeline from 6 months to 2 months. And and with the fail-safes that are going to take place throughout the whole process. In addition, they are mandated, not thinking about, or could be, they are mandated to come up with these criteria by the end of the year, and they're on track. They got things being put together. So by the end of the year, per the governor's demand, they will have these procedures in place. And what's interesting, the Pure Water project in San Diego, which we've been to at least once or twice, that was just 1 million gallons to begin with, they've expanded that thing tremendously. The Padre Dam that was at the groundbreaking more than a year ago, Maureen wasn't quite right. They're not, because I asked, because I thought they were sending it through Santee Lakes. They're actually sending it to Lake Jennings, and that's where they're gonna have the
Pull it back
period.
out and retrieve it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then pull it back out. So there is just 43, maybe that was the number I heard, 43 of these plans, demonstration plans, being put together throughout the state to get it, what is going to be the new potable, indirect or direct potable, that will help our portfolio of diversification. So it's what's very interesting to me is I've only been on the board 5 years, and in this 5 years, it has just dramatically.
Everything
They
has.
just were barely talking about it
Yeah.
5 years ago. Now, this whole conference was about it. So it's coming to a community near you.
Well, you know, part of the issue is, again, is, you know, I think Director Martin said it a few times, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Right.
And the difference in the mentality, and that's part of what Maureen, when I was asked to make contact with her to come up, and I asked, you know, let's talk about these items, because these are the 4 big items coming forward right now. And the mentality of water use, and you saw the difference in projections of water by 100,000 acre feet less.
Mhm.
I mean, so that changes everything, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So everything, the paradigms, as they say, have shifted. Everything is shifting. We've been doing the reclaim like since it's 81, so we've got 35 years of experience. But now we're ready to say, okay, we can still do that, but we wholesale it. So now we look at DPR, IPR, you know, and okay, by the end of the year, we might have an idea where we can be in 2035.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not gonna do it between now and 2020, 2025. This is a long-term where you start going. And as Director Martin said, you've gotta get the rules promulgated, but keep in mind, and correct me if I misspeak, that's the process to help develop the testing and all the criteria for the rules by the end of the year. So that's just, okay, now we have the target, and now we're gonna tell you what we want you to go do. So you can look at 5 years from there.
Basically, just the draft guidelines.
That's the draft guidelines to help develop the rules.
Right.
So it's a process, but it's a whole lot further along than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah. And then, we had our engineering committee relative to our fill station, and, we're gonna bring back more definitive information here in the next couple of meetings. We're gonna do this every couple of weeks until we get enough data to bring to the board to make some decision and have something to point to. So, that's the report.
Interesting. Other business, 4.1, meetings, cost of public policy forum, April 6th. Is anybody attending that?
No.
Nobody? Okay. Okay. If you so choose, let Diane know. Director's comments, future agenda items. Does anybody have anything?
No. We both do. Oh, okay. A couple of meetings back, I had mentioned the program that was in Arizona. That was a way to have customers volunteer a little bit of money that would go to the Lifeline. I'd like to bring that forward. I know Chris Robbins is familiar with something like that. I'd just like to see if we could look into that. I also understand, I believe San Diego City just started it themselves.
Theirs is a little different because they have a general fund. The city can do that.
Okay, but I just saw that, but
Yeah.
I would like to just see if we can do something.
Yeah, Chris actually just sent me the link to the city site today
Uh-huh.
on what's behind it, so why don't we consider that under item 5.1, and I'll bring something back to report on how they do
If
it.
that would be all right?
I'd be
I'd
interested in that, too.
appreciate that. Thank
Okay.
you.
He was actually the one that started
He was
that
actually the one
program.
that did the program when he was
I
at San
thought
Diego.
I thought he was, because he'd afterwards had told me he was familiar with it.
Did you guys have something?
Yeah, I do have, I would like to formally request that on our next agenda, we bring up the time frame for speakers. So the time frame for speakers, so, and it certainly wouldn't have.
Oh, for people,
Well,
public
if
speaking?
anybody that comes to the
Limit on
podium,
Limit on
I certainly
speaking.
wouldn't have cut Maureen off, but quite frankly, our staff was sitting out here for an hour and waiting their turn, and I think they were all supposed to go home at 5:30. So I'm sure they didn't mind the extra time.
Okay.
But if we can identify public speaking, presentations, organized presentations, yada, that whole list, then we can perhaps.
Okay.
And just to go back to Director Evans' request, if you think that you may want to form a committee to work with Chris and others to work on this, if it would fall within one of the committees that currently
It would
exists,
probably
certainly
go under
would.
conservation, outreach, and education.
I'd certainly be willing to appoint you as the chair of that committee
I
if
think I
you'd like.
am.
Oh,
But thank you.
but yeah, so,
We'll bring back what we can have, and
I
then
already
you
did
guys
appoint you,
can,
apparently.
you guys can direct us from the next board.
You did a
meeting.
great job, you're so proactive.
Okay.
Thank you.
You have a motion to go to?
yeah, can we
Motion
get a
to go
motion to
closed
go closed session?
So session, move.
Right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously.